You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look me better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper than again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the second part of What If Naruto Enters GTA 5? Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of pyrohelixdrago on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Michael's house. Can you all just stop? Naruto said, walking inside seeing the family argue. You grow up, he said, looking to Jimmy and motioned for him to take off. Amanda, this guy is bullshit. He harasses women convincing them that his SEC positions are yoga. He also targets the elite, acting as a SGRDDY and anal fixated one at that, he said to them. Fabian was about to say something but Naruto's glare made him shut up. Here, divorce papers, Naruto said as he got them for Michael when he brought it up weeks ago. You're both unhappy, at least this way you can't have a reason to be at each other, he said to them. The husband and wife looked at each other with sadness but knew this was true, as all the anger they had trying to hold on to a relationship that was filled with anger and hatred and devoid of love wasn't really worth it at this point, and hopefully it'd break the tension of all the malice they felt. You're not going anywhere, Naruto said as he looked at Fabian, who was trying to sneak away. You harassed a friend of mine, he said, as Mrs. Madrazo was his client and he tried to make some passes at her. 1 hour later. Good luck, Naruto said to Michael as he was about to meet up with Trevor, and it was either meet him like this or meet him at his doorstep. On a scale of 1 to 10, how F up is he? Michael asked Naruto. It's Trevor, Naruto said simply. Michael sighed as he walked into the condo. Naruto waited outside before he soon got a phone call from Tracy. 20 minutes later. Laszlo, right, Naruto said as he was waiting in the bathroom for the man as he slipped him some DRGs in his coffee as he got called from Tracy that he was harassing her. Yeah, listen, I'll do an autograph or selfie in a dash, Laszlo was saying before he screamed as he was tazzed in the neck. Few minutes later. The F happened here? Naruto asked, seeing the apartment was trashed and a lot of BLD was spilled. Trevor and Michael started fighting and they're still fighting, Wade said to him as he was nursing his cousin as Trevor punched and bit him as he tried to stop the fight. Yo assholes, Tracy was in trouble, Naruto said as both men paused, as despite their many differences they did care about the children they looked after. They're outside tied up, he said, tossing Michael some brass knuckles, and gave Trevor nothing as the man's mind was all he needed to torture someone. You get a reprieve, Trevor said as they pulled Laszlo and Fabian inside, where he and Michael began to beat him senseless, and after a while Naruto and Michael left them to Trevor so he could do Trevor-like things which he recorded. 1 hour later. Oh, you two are gonna be good with some friends of mine, they'll eat your sweetmeats, Trevor said as he had some unique friends. They love people, he said with a smirk, thinking of how these two would be slowly chopped up and diddled with. Both men shivered in fear and slowly began to SHT and PSS themselves from fear. Next week. Let me go, Naruto said as it'd be best if he went with Michael, as well as stealth wasn't his forte. Fine, Dave Norton said as he injected Naruto with a mysterious DRG to knock him out. Next day. Okay, time to get to work, Naruto thought as he woke up the moment they took Michael's unconscious body. SHT, they found everything, he thought, thinking he must have went through an X-ray as he carried a switchblade with him, leaving his guns and other materials in his car. He walked out quickly, getting dressed, and grabbed some scalpels and went to the lab where Michael was about to be cut up, and before the men could scream he stabbed them in their vocal cords. Thanks, Michael said as he was a little tired. Naruto took the men's clothing and Michael took the other, wearing the caps and goggles so no one would be suspicious. They heard someone coming down the corner and saw a security guard as he seemed to be doing his rounds. Hey Doc Dash, was all the security guard was able to say. Stun gun, are you F with me? Michael said as Naruto tossed it to him. There are 7 people and they're all locked and loaded, 4 in the lab and 3 down the hall, and listen, the one at the desk needs to be taken out first. There is an emergency button there and they have sound sensors if bullets fire. We're screwed. Listen, that stun gun takes about 3 to 5 seconds till it can fire again, Naruto said as they had to time this right. Naruto walked into the lab holding the scalpels between his fingers and immediate threw them at all the scientists. The man at the desk was about to hit the alarm button but was shot in the face with a taser, getting knocked out. Naruto rushed to 2 of the corpses he killed in the lab and threw it at the 2 remaining guards. Nice, Michael said, grabbing a shotgun and Naruto an assault rifle. Let me see if I can access the terminal, Naruto said as he grabbed the unconscious man's ID and used it to access the computer, shutting down the cameras in the stairwell and elevator and disabled certain alarms. You take the elevator, I'll take the stairs. No matter what we do will be noticed the moment we make it to the top floor, but silver lining, I've disabled all the outgoing alarms, best not to make them think anything is wrong, Naruto said as they split up. He waited on the same floor and soon heard men rushing upstairs and immediately began to shoot them, killing all the men that were running upstairs and reunited with Michael. Guys are dead, Michael said to him, covered in blood. Hold on, before we go I'll do us a favor, Naruto said as he went to a nearby computer and used another ID and got in and used his minimal computer skills and made a call to Lester and Temari, both creating a backdoor and hole in the program. Let's go, Michael said to him as they wasted enough time. 1 hour later. So he worked for the feds and snitched on his homies, Franklin said looking at Michael. Yeah, and to top it off the feds are gonna use us all, Naruto said to him as he drank some bourbon from his cars. After they left the building they found his car. Man, SHT got F, but listen, I ain't backing off, man, my homies are in trouble, and to top it off we did good SHT together, Franklin said to them. Thanks Franklin, I really appreciate it, Michael said, appreciating the loyalty. Next day. Oh man, that guy is an as his show is terrible, Enko said looking through a scope seeing Steve Haynes and his assistant. Dave Norton is not a target, he can be manipulated, Tenten said as the other 2 were the targets as they were corrupt as they come on we gotta go, she said to her friend. Few minutes later. You're gonna go in, Michael asked as Tenten decided she'd retrieve the target. Yeah, I marked the building. Trevor, you still fly? Enko is backing Franklin up. Seriously, the guy is a good shot, but with helicopters and using a sniper isn't his forte, Tenten said to them. I guess I'll go to them too, Michael said as he was a hell of a shot. 20 minutes later. Temari, if this doesn't work I'll kill you, Tenten said as Temari asked her to do something. Once she made it inside, she jumped down the helicopter having a loose hold on her cord and soon held it tightly. Breaking through the window, throwing shuriken that embedded themselves in the nearby agents' heads. Come on, she thought to herself, plugging in a flash drive to a computer. With Lester and Temari. This is a really smart system, Temari said as she and Lester were trying to match codes and hack into the IAA. It is also, you think she can make it, Lester said as the IAA wasn't their true target, they were just taking advantage as the morgue building gave them certain details and info. It wasn't high on the food chain. Oh, you mean the stunt she's about to pull, Temari said as she had to admit Tenten was doing something crazy with a lot of risk. With Franklin. I swear Naruto is AF genius, Franklin said as he and the others were shooting at helicopters as Tenten was dangling in mid-air by the cord with the man they were sent to retrieve as Trevor flew in the direction of the FIB building. I'd use genius loosely, Tenten said as she crashed through a window and ran up some stairs, making it to the server room, stealthily placing another flash drive in place. With Lester and Temari. Okay, we're in hurry and bury a virus in their code, Lester said as the server was exceptionally powerful and was on its own system. With Enko. Come on, Enko said as she shot down another helicopter and then looked back at the FIB building and began shooting at the men they could see trying to rush the top floor. With Tenten. Stop your bitching, Tenten said to the man that was crying as she shot some FIB agents. Time, she asked, checking in on their status. 10 seconds, Lester said to her. Really hate guns, Tenten thought as she had little choice in this scenario and waited the time and was given the all clear and soon raced downstairs, shooting her way out and made it back to the helicopter cable with the package. 1 hour later. So we got nothing, Michael asked, a little pissed off. Yes and no, Lester said to him, we created a virus gives us a backdoor into their system, won't alert anyone, we buried it under miles of code, no one will notice it, but we need to wait, we made it seem like we were downloading agent files, which we were, and this virus will delete and notify us if our names are entered from this moment on. We even erased some crimes like Franklin's NDC and the XPSR, he said as they all looked at the man in question. Avoid Steve Haynes for a while, let him think he has all the power, Naruto said as he was on standby in case things got ugly. Better than nothing, pal, he said to Michael, knowing he wanted his crimes past and current erased. If it makes you feel better, one of the choppers crashed into Steve Haynes' office, he said as that made everyone smile. Few days later. Oh, this is gonna be awesome, Enko said with a smirk as they were hunting down the Vagos, trying to get a reaction out of Madrazo hitting up one of the Vagos' new hangouts in Sandy Shore. They're joining up with those hillbillies you and Trevor shot, Naruto said as Enko and Trevor got drunk and he was designated driver, but when both wanted some more booze and wanted some from some hillbillies, and they made rather interesting comments about their mothers, which the two drunk BLD thirsty people got angry of, but before they could go on a rampage he got them out of there. Good, Enko said with a smile as she had an AK-47 and lot of ammo. You're insane, Naruto said as he took out an AK, as well as there was gonna be around 70 people here in a few short minutes. Thank you, Enko said as she then strapped a few grenades to her as she walked up to a bar and started to shoot some people up. Grab a drink, she said as they waited, hearing a straggler from both groups make a call. I swear your ideas for dates, Naruto said as he served them both glasses and clicked drinks before drinking all their glass contents. They're here, Enko said, hearing the cars pull up, and immediately tossed grenades, blowing up the cars, hearing some screams. Enko smiled as she aimed for vital points, never wasting more bullets than she had to on each person, always going for the kill. Cops, Naruto said as he heard them coming. Correction, corrupt cops, Enko said as it soon became a three-way gun fight. Normally I like more partners, she thought to herself jokingly. Wonder if there is anything at the cop station, Naruto said to her as the cops were minimal compared to the city, and Trevor informed him about many things happening in the county. Seriously, you have a back door in how many places? Enko asked as she liked working with /for Naruto as he always lead her to action. A lot, Naruto said as he even paid Ricky to steal all the Life Invader programming from the building after he was fired. 20 minutes later. How much was here? Naruto asked as Enko pocketed cash from wallets, swiped the guns, and easily 10 grand from the crooks, Enko said as she lit the corpses in a pile on fire. And the cops? Naruto asked her curiously as she brought him to the back of a cop car and opened it, revealing guns and cash. Payment, he said as he looked it over, seeing the bill had to be from people paying off the cops. 30 grand, Enko said with a smirk as she did like to make a profit and show something for her actions. Few minutes later. That was insulting, Enko said as they just walked in and out of the station as they took some cop uniforms, taking the least bloodiest ones. Yeah, but it benefits us. Turns out we interrupted a powwow, Naruto said as Natalia called him and told him that meeting was a setup for distribution and that Madrazo had supplies being moved into a warehouse. Yeah, we gotta call Trevor, he said to her as some other information caught his attention. Why? Enko asked curiously. Turns out Madrazo is the guy the Chinese want to do business with, as Natalia said. She saw a drunk and high Chinese party boy and a translator, Naruto said as Enko knew that description as she remembered Trevor basing his head before going to the O'Neills. 1 hour later. F them, F all of them, F the Mexicans and the Chinese, Trevor said as he was getting angry. Careful, that's racist, Naruto said as that was one line he wasn't gonna cross ever. I meant the gangs, you mother effer, Trevor said to him. Okay, so are we gonna go rob and kill these mothafs? Enko asked curiously. F yes, Trevor said as he got knowing where they'd be. Few minutes later. 50 people, half Chinese and half Mexican, Trevor said as he spotted them all. Okay, and Enko said as she munched on dango. They are transporting weapons and DRGS, my kinda deal to rip off, Trevor said to them happily. So what's the dash? Enko was saying till her dango was destroyed by a bullet by Chinese man who told them to get up, but all Enko could do was see red as she took Naruto's AK-47 and used both hers and his to kill the man violently. And I thought you had anger issues, Naruto said to Trevor as Enko loaded the guns and walked straight into the warehouse. Have some beer, Naruto asked Trevor, and he immediately provided as they sat in his truck watching Anko work. Surprised you didn't join, he said as they drank. The Chinese will send more, Trevor said to him, as the Chinese were actually international, so he would get his fair share of bloodshed. 20 minutes later. Anko smiled as she avenged her dango covered in the BLD of the enemy head to toe as she and the others loaded Trevor's truck with guns and Naruto's car with DRGs. Well, I'll store these in my garage, Trevor said, as they were gonna sell most of these until they. I'll bring the DRGs to Mei and Chef, Naruto said, wondering if they were New York good or could be used for any other purpose. Good call, Trevor said, as Chef was a bona fide scientist always. Improving with his DRG skills with the offshore pure DRGs, Chef would become next level, and with the new lab and Mei's assistance made him a way bigger deal out here. I'll bring it to Mei in a few days, Naruto said, as it was like 3 in the morning. Next day. Anko, after killing all the men, still didn't feel satisfied and needed some action, so she made a call. What do you want? Temari said, sounding tired. That virus you placed with the fib, I want you to check something out for me, Anko said over the phone. Okay, and what? Temari said as she accessed the hole in system. Sanchez, no assistant works for someone that corrupt. He seems to calm, unlike Haynes was when he and Michael first met, Anko said to her. What's bothering you for you to think clearly? Temari said to her as she was doing as requested. Ugh, need to calm my nerves, Anko said to her. Holy SHT, they're using him to spy on Haynes. They're trying to use him as a patsy. They have no evidence on him and using him as a witness, Temari said to her. So he knows all of us. Perfect, Anko said to her as she got on her motorcycle. Time to do some hunting, she thought with a smirk. Few hours later. Sanchez walked into his home after a long day and got himself some coffee, wanting to ease his stress, placing his gun down as he looked in his fridge, but as soon as he closed the fridge door he saw Anko and freaked, and as he reached for his gun he saw it was in Anko's hands. Hey, Anko said cutely as she saw him tense up. What do you want? Sanchez said as she twirled his gun in her gloved hands. No fingerprints, he thought to himself. Give it a minute, Anko said, never losing her smile. Give what a minute? Sanchez said as he soon saw his vision begin to blur. Seen your credit card statements, you're a caffeine addict. Coffee every day and night, Anko said as he was now on one knee. Sanchez looked at his coffee. Yo, poisoned me, he said in surprise. Poison? No, sedated. Yes, Anko said with a smile as he fell unconscious. Anko raided his home, stealing all his valuables and his computers and hard files he had on everyone of the criminal element that Steve Haynes interacted with, and before she left, taking a cab claiming her friend was drunk, she left all the gas mains running and all the water lines running, clogging all the drains, and even pulled a live wire from the wall, and as soon as the gas was ignited the house was gone and it'd be seen as construction or pipe failure. She did as a precaution that he had evidence she couldn't find. 3 hours later. Hey Anko, Naruto said, relaxing by the pool on a beach chair reading a book. Hey handsome, Anko said in a violet bikini. What you do with the body? Naruto asked her. Left it in Ballast territory near Franklin's place. Haynes had assigned him to look into us to learn about our contacts, so him being killed in gang territory near Franklin's won't be too suspicious, Anko said, laying next to him, pressing into him. Naruto placed the book down on a nearby table and pulled Anko into a kiss. Anko liked this, as after a long day of killing and doing a bunch of the other SHT she liked to do kissing, spending time with Naruto, being treated like a woman and not a psychopath, which she knew she was, but despite that Naruto saw something more in her and that made her heart race and soar, having someone who saw so much in her when all she did seemed to show the opposite. Anko as she kissed Naruto, wanting him to be pleased, wanting to show her love for him, wanting to drive him wild like he did her. She in surprise when she felt a knife cut her bikini top. Get in the hot tub, Naruto said to her, giving her a wink, and slapped her peach as she got up. Anko smirked from the treatment, finding it to be amazing, as whenever he always took control, demeaning her, fulfilling her RTC fantasies, and never treated her less because of them. It was one of the many reasons she fell for him. He accepted her as she was. Naruto joined her in the hot tub, smiling as she got in his lap the moment he sat down, kissing him, and slowly trailed down his body, moving off his lap to her knees, peeling him out of his swimsuit, eating his pee strongly, never having a problem as she tamed and mastered her GG reflex and was able to give him the best blow jobs. Anko as she held her breath exceptionally well being underwater and eating Naruto off, and her became louder as she felt him rip off her panties leaving her completely naked. She let her mouth go off his PP and looked to his face. So what's the plan, handsome? You gonna F me out here? PSS of OU neighbors, she said with a smile. No, Naruto said, pulling her up, walking to the house. NDE. Next day. Anko was blushing and rubbing her thighs furiously as she was in a revealing topless maid outfit as Naruto F her all over the house. Yesterday the women living there smiling as they watched Naruto wreck her in every room in the house, the women smiling at her, giving her occasional kisses, ate her tips, finger whatever hole was being used, eaten on her melons, and slapped her in random places. And this morning Naruto woke her at the crack of dawn and instructed her that she was to wear this and not complain. Anko did household chores, and whenever she had to stretch or bend over, her pantyless peach would be on full display. With Naruto. You made Anko your maid? Deborah asked in surprise. Yep, Naruto said to her simply in his office as Deborah was reporting to him of her work status. And she has to do anything we say? Deborah asked curiously. Yep, Naruto said to her as he made it clear to Anko that she had to do all requests and demands given to her, and Naruto knew Deborah would take full advantage as Anko liked to F with the women lower than her in the HRM, surprising them and F them at certain times and places to S with them. Deborah smiled as she remembered when Anko came to her job, went under her desk and ate her out the whole day till she had to go home. She went to go find Anko and smiled seeing her scrub the floors. Naruto head downstairs as Deborah began to spank Anko. This'll be interesting, he thought to himself. Oh, how I've waited for this, Anko, Deborah said as she ate her PP before spanking her peach again. She got in front of Anko and made her lick her PP. Oh Naruto, thank you, she said as she was loudly. Having fun, Naruto said as he sat down enjoying the show. Yes baby, Deborah said in a breathy voice as she from Anko's skilled tongue. Come here, Naruto said to Deborah as she did as she was told and sat in his lap. Please baby, let me have my fun, please let me F her, Deborah said beggingly. You can, Anko, Naruto said as he called her over. Anko walked to him and bowed her head slightly. Yes mstr, she said politely. Deborah at this, F how you F her into SBMSN is so hot, she said in excitement. She's such a bee all the time, always teasing us, she said to him. Naruto had to admit that Anko had minimal to no SXL restraint and her teasing went a little far a lot of the times as he often had to rein her in. OFC Mir, Deborah said as she began to finger Anko in front of Naruto. Deborah Mir, Naruto said, pulling her into a kiss before pulling her down to his PP, shoving his PP into her mouth. Face F her, had enough of you talking, he said as Deborah could be a little much when she was given too much power as she was quick to abuse it. Deborah as she ate him off, wanting more and more. Anko, you can have fun, Naruto said seeing Anko smile as she ripped off her maid outfit and slapped Deborah's peach. Few minutes later. Okay, what you do, Naruto said seeing Deborah tied to a chair red and crying and her PP was pouring out juices. I gave her a little something, Anko said to him with a smile. Enjoy the show Deborah, he's gonna F me and we'll pour our juices all over you as your PP drips and longing for release, she said to Deborah with a smile on her face. Deborah whined as she saw Naruto pick Anko up into a full Nelson and F Anko like that, aggressively making juices rain down on Deborah. Next day. Anko woke up barely having any feeling in her legs, looking at Naruto. F Deborah, God, he's AF horse, that PP and stamina, she thought to herself as if this was how she was gonna die she'd welcome it with open arms. 1 week later. Here are the DRGs, Naruto said delivering DRGs to Mei. Oh thank you, Mei said in relief. Seriously, the cops have been buckling down holding up orders, she said as it was hard to get her weed to her stores as it was, technically, illegal when her trucks were carrying heavy amounts of weed. We can steal some from that guy, you have that book on ferns, you can steal all of them and see if any of them are good or Naruto said as there was a guy trying to make weed more legal, something they agreed on fully as it'd help business and people could stop trying to steal their product, and the illegal DRGs they possessed were still in production in the testing stages as Mei had compared DRGs and improved her own. That's a plan I guess, Mei said as she tried it once and she felt like she was being attacked when she did. She nicknamed that weed, the massacre. Few hours later. How this guy isn't in jail baffles me so much, Naruto said to Mei as they were following the man and found several locations filled with more than $100,000 worth of weed. Yeah, Mei said as they were in a car following the guy. So how are the DRGs coming? Naruto asked as Mei was making more money in Sandy Shores. Good, especially since we don't have to pay off the cops, Mei said as she also took advantage of all the info she got from the cop servers, finding out about small-time business and ending them quickly and stealing their product with the help of Chef. Those cops are morons, bet they're your best customers, Naruto said with a knowing smile as it was better to befriend than blackmail. Yeah, the cops are always there, they even gave us protection, Mei said as it made things easier for her and Chef when the crooked cops protected them. Idiots, Naruto said to her as the cops doubled down on stupidity. Gets better, a cop there is an addict and gives us confiscated DRGs and wanted a discount. I gave it to him cause the DRGs were in both quality and quantity, so he keeps supplying our stuff. Gets better, Mei said as it was certainly a beneficial arrangement as the cop gave them a few uncut DRGs as DRGs had taken a turn for the worst in years and wasn't very pure. Nice, Naruto said as that was certainly lucky. Seriously, these hiding places, scrapyards and residential areas, Mei said as Kage knew how to hide things and these things seemed way too obvious. It was baffling the cops didn't find anything out. Yeah, now let's rob this idiot, Naruto said as they got out the moving truck they were driving and gathered all the weed. 1 hour later. DMN, Lamar and Franklin said as they looked at the full truck stuffed with weed. Need some help with the business, can you help me out? Mei said as she knew these two were big fans of her products. Do we get an employee discount? Lamar asked as Franklin then elbowed him but was in truth wondering the same thing. Employees get 10% off on all store products for you morons. I'll make that a cool 30%, Mei said as they smiled at the offer. Few days later. What in God's name did you give him? Naruto asked Mei as Trevor seemed to be on something else compared to all the other things he was on. New and improved versions of all his DRGs, Mei said as she worked on Trevor's DRGs to stop any future complaints he may or may not give her, as she expected Trevor to want to see results and this shut him up. How much did you give him? Naruto asked as Trevor just drove off. A small dose if you can believe it, but it was completely pure, Mei said to him. How do you test these things? Naruto asked as he never asked before. Well, mostly on rats, but I've learned how to level the doses equally so it won't kill people, Mei said as all her DRGs were in the green as she had nearly no fatality rates. Cool, anything in development? Naruto asked her. Aphrodisiacs have a deal with some places, Mei said as it was with a few SEC shops and strip clubs and they'd buy in bulk and it'd be a nice side DRG to sell in her shops. Who you testing that out? Naruto said as aphrodisiacs were unharmful to certain people. Maybe my DLVRY girl, Mei said as her DLVRY girl worked for less than what she was worth in the criminal world, and to top it off she worked fantastic as her DLVRY girl, always protecting her product from cops and rival gangs. She was honestly a good friend at this point. Or maybe someone else, she thought, remembering something. Next day. Hi Amanda, Mei said in her office. Why'd you call me out to Trevor Phillips' country? Amanda asked Mei as she was at a seedy-looking hotel. To offer you $10,000, Mei said to her with a smile. Why? Amanda asked, raising a brow knowing there was something Mei wanted. I wanna test you, Mei said as Amanda knew what she did. With what? Amanda asked curiously. And PHRDS, Mei said to her. Sure, Amanda said as she didn't think those things were that powerful as people were made out to believe. Few minutes later. Amanda was naked and tied to the bed by her hands and feet, a few candles lit, and had taken some oils rubbed on her and had taken a pill. Now that you are juiced to the gills, let me show you something, Mei said as she turned on the TV and her daughter on screen. Everyone in Naruto's HRM has a CC with each other, she said with a smile, but with Tracy we pass her around. You can say she's the HRMs, we're always so willing, having no shame. You gave BRTH to a SLT, she said with a smile as Amanda's PP was getting soaked and she was turning red. Why are you showing me this? Amanda asked, seeing a video of Mei F, her daughter, with a strap on. Because I'm trying to turn you on, push you to a breaking point and make you do something you haven't considered, Mei said, seeing Amanda's tip stiffen, looking as hard as diamonds. Amanda watched her daughter get F'd by Naruto and other women, seeing her daughter look and act like a total SLT, easily taking everything that was given to her. I used her as well, May said as Amanda knew from watching she F her daughter. She's a toy now and I called her here, she said, surprising Amanda. She'll be here and you'll be out of your mind in lust, she said with a smile as she was gonna test the mental state, seeing if Amanda would F her own daughter after being pushed. Few minutes later. Hi May, Tracy said as she kissed the woman on the cheek, wearing a pink bikini top and short shorts. Hello SLT, May said as she grabbed her peach, Tracy not losing her smile and from the touch. So we doing it in here, Tracy said looking at the seedy motel room. Did you wear it, May asked as her curiously looking at the shorts. Yes, Tracy said as she had a strap on under her pants. Good, now go inside, May said motioning to the room. Tracy did as instructed, and as she did she was tackled onto the bed and saw her mother. Mom, she said in surprise. Shut up, Amanda said, ripping off her daughter's clothing but not the strap-on. Tracy, your mother is on an PHRDS, so she is very corny, May said next to the bed, strapping Tracy to the restraints Amanda was in. I gave BRTH to Aware, Amanda said F herself. With her daughter's strap-on playing with Tracy's bub. Tracy could only as her mother bounced on her strap-on, and soon Amanda kissed her and pressed her melons against hers. May watched Amanda, seeing her using her daughter to F herself. She's lost all restraint, having no problems at all, she thought, as Amanda had so many aphrodisiacs in her it sent her over the edge. My purse, Tracy said as her mother looked at her and reached over to the nearby purse. Amanda reached in and pulled out a double-sided DLD. I'm so proud of my SLT of a daughter, she said, taking of Tracy's strap-on and put the double-sided DLD into both of them and continued her earlier actions. SCK my tips, she said, pulling Tracy to her melons, making her SCK them. I'd say this test is a success, May said with a smile as she did a quick vitals check, and the only real difference to Amanda was that she had an elevated heart rate. 3 hours later. Immediate response and lasted 4 hours, May said as she looked at Amanda and Tracy. Guess I have something to celebrate, gonna invite Naruto, she said to the girls teasingly. Wait, Amanda said to her, getting May's attention. Next day. Be glad Anko owed me a favor, May said as she handed the girls bags full of clothing, looking at their naked bodies, seeing they had gotten tattoos they got the previous day. Bold choice, even bolder statement, she thought to herself, checking out the tattoos. Next day. You know you have expensive taste and exotic demands, Naruto said as they were off the coast of sandy shores on his boat. Oh come on, I have already sold $300,000 worth on the aphrodisiacs alone, May said with a smile. And the DRGs both legal and not, Naruto asked her curiously. Both around 2 million helps that I have been stealing from the Ballas and Vagos, May said as she had been pushing her product into the streets. Franklin, Lamar, and his were cousin being her best customers for legal and illegal. Made them think the other is stealing from the other, Naruto asked her curiously. Yep, May said as Lamar had his uses and using him for false advertising was perfect, as everyone believed he was an idiot, which in truth he was, but for information they thought he was perfect. It also helped him as he was making cash on the side. So why'd you bring me out here? I know you like the high life, but this seems a little much, Naruto said as there was caviar and she even made some high-quality ramen. May smiled as she got off her seat and sat on Naruto's lap. Do you know what I love about you, she said, resting her head on his chest. You shower me with affection and love, she said, as that was something she always wanted in a partner, and he did that and more. Now come, we have a show to see, she said with a smirk. Naruto followed her lower into the ship and came into a room where he saw Tracy and Amanda in very revealing clothing. Amanda was wearing a black lipstick and eyeliner, black fishnet body suit, a black tube top that was so small it was basically a BR, a tiny black skirt, and black stiletto heels. Tracy was wearing bright pink lipstick and eyeliner, white fishnet body suit, pink tube top like her mother, a white skirt, and pink wedge heels. Are they on DRGS? Naruto said, seeing their juices go down their legs when he arrived. None, May said as they were burning with horniness just being in Naruto's presence. Give him a show, girls, she said as she and Naruto sat down with May on his lap. They're where's now, she said with a smile. So are you, Naruto said, ripping off her top, massaging her bust, pinching her tips, and began to finger her PP. May as her cheeks flushed and Naruto ripped off the rest. She got off his lap and got on her knees and began to blow him, smiling, feeling his hands on the back of her head as he began to face her, making her take him to his base. Keep dancing SLTS, Naruto said, using one hand to take out a roll of ones, as sometimes he visited the vanilla unicorn to tease his girls cause he knew when they knew he was watching they got corny. Both women seeing the ones and collected them. I swear those CC lips, Naruto said to May, as May was famous for her kisses as they were both hot and made most women in the HRM weak in the knees. Tell me, May, for such a high class be you just like being a SLT watching me F other girls or making other girls get even saltier, he said with a smile as he saw her cheeks get brighter. May only blushed as she liked this, being put in her place by her man, dominating her, punishing her, and still loved her all the same. I think it's time the girls get their turn, Naruto said as he pulled out of May's mouth a trail of pre-juice and saliva coming out her mouth. Oh, go F them, May said, wanting a show. Naruto walked over to the mother-daughter duo. F me Naruto, Amanda said beggingly, wanting his PP in her. Naruto tore her skirt off and rubbed his PP against her PP. You know, Amanda, you are aware, he said to her, you've always been one and you made your daughter into one, he said teasingly. Yes, I'm aware you're where from now on, Amanda said as she smiled shamelessly. Come on Naruto, be my man, be Tracy's new daddy, she said as she looked at her daughter who was fingering herself as she watched them. Naruto chuckled at that but said nothing as he began to F her PP, and as he played with her peach cheeks he looked at her pucked hole. You're an animal version, aren't you, he said, bending forward whispering into her ear, and then massaged her tips, ripping off her top leaving her in just the full body fishnet suit. Amanda as she nodded to him, and louder when he fingered her peach. I swear Anko made the right call, you are most certainly a Barbie with those colors, and Amanda goth SLT, interesting choice on her but looks so CC, May said behind Tracy helping her. Naruto, look above her peach, she said to her lover. Naruto did as asked and saw Amanda had a tattoo, Naruto's juice dumpster, written in script. Nice, he said, nodding at Amanda in approval, and did the same seeing Tracy had the same. But you both should be able to live up to that name, he said, going faster, making Amanda scream even louder. All Amanda could do was as none of her lovers in the past could compare to this kinda F. She let out a whiny as he pulled out and sat down. Well, he said and smiled as she ran to him, spreading her legs on his sides, and just as she was about to insert it into her PP he stopped her. I want your peach, he said to her, making her blush as she did as instructed and positioned it with her peach and dropped down screaming as Naruto entered. Her scream was silenced when Naruto kissed her aggressively and dominated her mouth as she rode him. F was all Amanda could think as Naruto was F her, stretching out her peach. Naruto then began to kiss her melons, making her scream. Here's my first load, he said as Amanda was now hitting the high notes as she screamed loudly as Naruto unleashed his load into her peach. Oh my god, Amanda said as she felt Naruto pull out, and soon his juices began to leak out. She collected it and tasted it, eating on her fingers, and soon began to crave more. Your turn, May said as Tracy jumped up and went to Naruto. Hi daddy, Tracy said as she strpped everything besides the fishnet bodysuit. F her, Amanda said, wanting to see her daughter get pounded like a cheap SLT stuffed to the brim with juices. Naruto just chuckled and F Tracy, making her That's your daughter, May said to Amanda, surprising the woman as she fingered her PP. She was a SLT way before Naruto F her. She's just like you, she said teasingly, and in this HRM you and her will be passed around fingered and F by me, the other girls, and Naruto, she said, wanting to paint as vivid a picture as she could. Amanda was leaking not just from May's fingering but from the thought of being used for constant amounts of SEC, being like her daughter a sec toy. Come with me, May said as they left the room and went to a nearby room. Enko sometimes uses this boat to have fun or party her peach off the coast, and she keeps a lot of her things here, and so does Ten, she said as she brought her to a chair, and soon she brought Amanda a few rings for your tips and CLT, she said with a smirk. These are real gold, Amanda said in surprise as she looked at them. Ten likes to give these to real salty girls like you, May said as she and the other girls kept certain items hidden from the girls and only showed a select few. She placed the rings on Amanda, who when May tugged at them. You are gonna be Naruto's, where who knows when you'll get a ring on that finger, she said as Naruto was legally only married to Ten, but after some time she and the other girls who have been with him long got rings. Amanda and had an explosive CLMX thinking about being his doting wife and his SLT in bed or wherever he wanted her. With Naruto. Tracy was screaming as she was pressed against the wall as Naruto was pounding her like an animal in heat, thinking the wall would give in and break, and screamed as she climaxed, feeling Naruto unleash another load into her PP, flooding her WMB. "Daddy, you were so rough on my PP," she said as Naruto placed her down and she looked down at her gaping PP. "I'll be as rough as I want with the rest of you," Naruto said, grpng her as and kissed her. "Tracy looked at you," May said as she smiled at Tracy coming in with Amanda going over to Tracy eating the juices that leaked out of her PP with Amanda. Tasty," she said as she and Amanda ate her out till her PP was clean. Amanda when she suddenly felt her PP be penetrated by Naruto's PP, screaming in lust. "I'd get used to that, he's always corny, he won't give you a minute," May said as he always took women by surprise, always spontaneous on how, where, and when he effed them. It honestly kept them on their toes and made the SEC that much more amazing. Amanda said as he brought her to a bed, not leaving her PP, keeping her peach high and her face buried down. "Look at you go," May said, hugging Naruto from behind. "Keep this up and she'll get PRGNT," she said teasingly. "I think she likes that idea," Naruto said to May as he felt Amanda tighten a lot. "You like that SLT," May said, giving Amanda's peach a nice spank. "Getting knocked up with his juice flooding your WMB," she said as she and a lot of girls thought about it, especially if they'd gone straight or as straight as it got with people in their social circles. "Yes, Naruto, knock me up with your baby," Amanda said, screaming pleasure. "Stuff my PP with your juice," she said, her WMB meeting his and feeling her insides on fire with lust, wanting to be drenched by Naruto's juice. "You heard the SLT, Naruto, paint her walls white and drench them in juices," May said with a sinister smile as Amanda was screaming louder. 1 hour later. "Like mother like daughter," May said as Naruto both women into SBMSN and unconsciousness, both stuffed and covered in juices, their stomachs looking slightly bloated from the treatment. "Come on," Naruto said, taking her out the room, taking her to the ship's jacuzzi, and they soon entered. "This is amazing," May said in bliss as they let the warm water ease their muscles. "So what do you want to do?" Naruto asked her with a grin as he rubbed her thigh. "Wanna make a bet?" May said, getting a raised brow from Naruto. "My lips versus your stamina," she said as she got on her knees before him. "I lose, you get to punish me, I win, get whatever I want," she said as he nodded, and she went underwater and began to blow him with vigor, knowing she was on a time limit. "You're gonna lose, May," Naruto said, knowing she could hear him. May went even faster, and it was frustrating as Naruto was doing nothing to her body. "Clock's running out, May," Naruto said to her, knowing she couldn't hold her breath much longer. May tried as hard as she could, but she eventually needed to surface for air. "I win," Naruto said teasingly. May just looked at him, watching him stand with his PP still irked in her face, thinking he wanted her to finish what she started. She reached out only for him to smack her face with his member. "Bend over," Naruto said to her as she put her hands outside the jacuzzi. May did as instructed and as Naruto pulled her ponytail and spanked her peach, making her "Look at you," Naruto said, spanking her peach continuously. "Once a Kage, now wear my wear," he said, making her scream. "You act all high and mighty, but underneath you are be needing to be by her man me," he said to her, his hold on her hair and his spanking never ceasing. May could only bend her head back and scream out her "Maybe you want to get knocked up, maybe we could call you the MILFkage instead," Naruto said to her as she screamed. "You know, maybe the only position you should have is this doggy style, perfect for a good bee like yourself," he said as she just smiled at him as if she were proud. They all till the sunset, till the sun rose, all the women on the boat very satisfied and happy. Few days later. Idiots, Naruto thought to himself as he got a call from Enko, who was helping May move product, that a contact of hers heard about some news that the Ballas had something planned for Lamar and Franklin after some issues they had at a plant, and they were being sold out by someone they knew. "I gotta hurry," he said, breaking many speed laws, and saw the cops following behind him and heard through the police radio in his car. "You idiots, you owe me so much," he said as he put the pedal to the metal. Few days later. "How screwed are we?" Franklin asked Naruto curiously as they were dressed in suits. "If you shut up and follow my lead, none at all," Naruto said to him. "I swear you were the last person I thought who'd get caught," Franklin said to him. Shut up, I had to plan this on the go, Naruto said as they walked into a courtroom and took the defendant's stand. Please rise, a judge said as Naruto and Franklin got up. Mr. Namikaze and Mr. Clinton, I see you chose to defend yourselves. How do you plead? The judge asked them. Not guilty, Naruto said to the judge. Now Mr. Namikaze, it says here you broke many traffic and speed violations. Care to explain? The judge asked curiously. Yes, Your Honor, Naruto said with a smirk. Flashback. FFF, Naruto said angrily as he drove and loaded a set of pistols and drove to Grove Street where he saw Franklin, Lamar, and Trevor at a house. F idiots, he said angrily as he then saw Trevor do his thing, which was basically a SHT storm. Flashback end. I had to rush to the location, Your Honor, as that place was known for much crime and multiple homicides, and I heard through a lot of friends something was gonna happen and I heard Franklin was gonna be there, Naruto said to him. Yes, Mr. Clinton, who was in the possession of an illegal firearm, the judge said as that was a charge for Franklin. Your Honor, I have proof that firearm is not Franklin's and he is a registered gun owner, Naruto said as they had the evidence brought up and Naruto handed the guard a file. Serial number matches your guns and Mr. Clinton's, the judge said to him, but that does not excuse the discharge of firearms, he said to them. It was an act of self-defense, Your Honor, as you can see from the police dashcam footage, Naruto said with a smile, using the cops' own evidence against them. Flashback. You are all idiots, Naruto said as he tossed Franklin a gun and threw his in the nearby sewage line, making it into the water. Keep that gun on you, he said to Franklin seriously as they were getting shot at by the cops and gangsters. How'd you know we were here? Trevor said as he swiped a gun from a nearby corpse and started shooting. Easy dumbass, I have people everywhere. Why in God's name did you come here? Naruto said as he was then told they were here for a deal. Hold on Trevor, come on, he said as they went back, Lamar and Franklin covering them as they broke into the house of the man that ripped them off and killed him. Flashback end. Why, Mr. Clinton, were you there in the beginning? The judge asked Franklin. I was catching up with an old friend, Franklin said as Naruto gave him the ID of the man that ripped them off as he and Trevor stole both that and the money, and he told the judge who looked over the deceased list, seeing the name. As you can see on the footage, Your Honor, we used our legal guns and defended ourselves, Naruto said to him. Can you identify the two men seemingly helping you too? The judge said to them. No, they both said to him. Flashback. Trevor put this on, Naruto said, stealing Franklin's mask, and told Lamar to put on his and keep his cap on. Flashback end. Your Honor, if I may be so bold, I have a friend in the police department and here are some statements matching one of the men's description. He seems to be a non-affiliated with any gangs and seems to be doing his own thing. We had nothing to do with him, Naruto said to him as the judge read all the random and bizarre crimes the man supposedly done and was appalled and soon had to side with Naruto on his point. Flashback. Okay Trevor, we need to be fast. Okay, listen, me and Franklin need to get arrested. Okay, lay low for a while. Alright, you've been making scenes, seriously throwing people off bridges in broad daylight, Naruto said quickly as they shot. Yeah, that may have been a little much, Trevor said as he was surprised how easy he got away with stuff. Come on, Naruto said to them, running down into the sewer line. This is lucky, he thought, seeing a local celeb MC clip. Better than Laszlo at least, he thought to himself as Trevor tried to shoot him and he saved his life and soon saw the camera. Good publicity, he thought to himself. Put your guns down, a cop said as Franklin did as instructed and saw Trevor and Lamar right away. Flashback end. Mr. Namikaze, given the circumstances, you've been a model citizen, and since you didn't shoot any police, you and Mr. Clinton will be given leniency and won't be charged. Thank you for being Marvel citizens, the judge said to him as he hit his gavel. I'm still suing, Naruto said to the police. It's official, people. Naruto Namikaze is a free man. After being wrongfully incriminated, Naruto Namikaze is free and is already being shown appreciation from the man he saved and his fans, a man on the TV said as he showed Naruto leaving the courtroom. So he is alive, a woman said with a smirk on her face in an old-styled house overlooking the ocean, and she made a call to an organization she ran called the Epsilon Program. 1 week later with Naruto. Mind killing someone for me? Need you to distract some idiots, Naruto said as he hacked Steve Haynes' phone and knew who he was after and was gonna let Michael waste his time and free the man. Done, Anko said as she took off using the tidbits to easily find a left-handed smoker with a beard at a party. Only what small percentage are left-handed, she said, as people were mostly right-handed. 20 minutes later. Molly Schultz, Naruto said with a smirk. Oh, Mr. Namikaze, a pleasure to see you again, Molly said with a blush as she had met Naruto in a few meetings, as he owned a lot of stocks and actually was able to buy 20% of Weston's company through many men. How is Deborah? Naruto asked, as a while back he sent Deborah to work for Weston, or more accurately Molly, as Deborah was his inside informant and Molly was someone he had been persuading to work for him in secret for a while. Fantastic actually, Molly said as she had less trouble dealing with the more eccentric investments of Mr. Weston. Well, I need to go. Have a nice day, Molly, Naruto said, walking away, but not before giving Molly's rear a nice slap. Mr. Namikaze, Molly said as she blushed, as she always admired the man as he seemed so much more than Devin Weston. Few minutes later. Stop, okay, stop, Naruto said as Trevor was about to use some jumper cables for torture. He untied the man and gave him a burner. Tell the police it was Steve Haynes, he said as he could tell the man's vision was blurred. Why Haynes? Trevor asked curiously. It'll put more heat on his ass, and trust me when I say we need that. Also be glad he never heard your name, Naruto said as the man was crying on the floor, slowly reaching for the phone. Few days later. So Jimmy robbed you? Bold move, Naruto said to Michael. Yeah, I'm really impressed, Michael said as he was being half sarcastic as this finally showed something. He called earlier. He's chilling with Lamar here. Stole your car back before he did what he did, Naruto said as he hoped those two coil help each other somehow. Thanks, Michael said to him as they sat down and watched some movies. Few days later. Private ship reserved and private cargo and a bunch of other stuff. I'd say illegal smuggling of artifacts, weapons, and a whole bunch of other stuff, Tenten said on a live feed as she was on a bridge at night overlooking the area for Trevor and Naruto. Gonna be hard to salvage all that, Trevor said as all that sounded like a couple million for each person. Not as hard as you think, Naruto said as he climbed out the water. Water is about, I'd say 40 maybe 50 feet down. Not a lot but not a little either. I say screw the offshore thing, Trevor, but keep the case. I may have an idea for that in the future, he said as the location seemed real remote. So how do you plan we steal all this? Trevor said to him sarcastically as it didn't seem possible. Easy, I recently bought then invested into a tow truck business. Franklin manages it for me. Hell, basically runs it. It's now a carrier business transporting things like supplies and the like. Can also be used to pick up crates. I say when we attack we also mark the containers. Lester has beacons. We label them with each for whatever we find, Naruto said as that was both quick and fast. Wait, back up. Why bring up the tow truck? SHT, what's that do? Trevor said to him. Technically in Bay areas or all sea areas you need a license to salvage. Naruto offers it to Merryweather. A few crates go missing, Tenten said to him. How many trucks you got? Trevor asked curiously. 10. Why? Naruto asked curiously. Okay, so 10 people drive. We hijack the drivers for Merryweather and steal from them, Trevor said greedily. Problem crazy nuts, Tenten said, bursting his bubble. We'd need a massive truck, not your pickup, to move all the items and a place to empty the containers, she said to him. Stole one on my way out, Trevor said as he had a huge one he drove to his current residence. Merryweather is all men mercenaries, meaning I can't help with the drivers, Tenten said as she was poking holes in his theory. And where are we gonna put them all? She said, not knowing what materials would be in each DLVRY. I have some thoughts. If we reuse the sub and have a team in the water we can move certain items faster, Naruto said as he could say it was his team hooking up latches to the crates. I don't like this to many people. Trevor said to them. What if we're looking at this wrongly? What if we use Merryweather to rob itself? Naruto said as Trevor stole enough from them to give him an idea of their channels, and if they made certain orders where the drop-off point was, things would go quickly. Free LBR, I love it, Trevor said with a smile. Also, you know that base you wanted to rob from the one for the chopper. Do it, Naruto said to him. Why? Trevor said, not needing a reason but was curious. They have a few choppers at the base. Take Michael made him get flying lessons for this reason. More helicopter time. Also did the same for Anko. Try and get the heavy duty stuff, Naruto said to him, hearing Trevor cheer. So how you plan to offload the other stuff? One truck going back and forth ain't gonna be much help, Tenten said to him. We use the boat, it's big enough we can easily hide stuff in it. Trevor takes the weapons, we keep a few of each model and so on, we sell the rest, Naruto said to her. Few days later. Okay, all the bodies are hidden, we ready? Naruto asked Michael as they needed to make sure the alarms didn't go off. Yeah, Michael said as they needed to make sure they had the correct frequency and the inside of the ship had it. Explosives are planted, Trevor said to them as he climbed to shore and walked right onto the ship. Okay, go below deck and mark each container, better to do this dry than wet in case one of those containers has art in it, Naruto said to him. Naruto and Michael rushed inside, immediately killing the men before they reached the alert button, and soon heard back from Trevor. Okay, all of them are marked not counting the ones up top, there about another 20 here, Trevor said to them. Nice, Michael said as he and Naruto raced into the water, Trevor soon catching up and remotely activated the ship's alarm, and as soon as security arrived they detonated it, killing everyone nearby and sinking the ship. Next day. Pleasure doing business with you, Mr. Percival, Naruto said as he hung up. Man, it's hilarious that they're paying us as we rob them, Michael said as he and Franklin laughed. Okay, we have 4 hours, told him we had 2 oxyhydro cutters on hand and we'd need to come up and change them as we'd need to work on the hull to retrieve the contents that work for you, Naruto said to Franklin. The ship is kinda far for the sub and we got 20 containers, Franklin said to him, telling Naruto his thoughts. True, Naruto had to admit, there is a place we can rent one for the day, Naruto said as he knew a place off the highway. Oh, with 2 subs, hell yeah, Franklin said to him. Good, and Trevor, Naruto said to him. 2 trips, 10 trucks, 10 drivers, 10 bullets, 1 insanely well-armed psychopath, Trevor said with a smirk. Sharks come by here a lot, maybe we'll get lucky, Michael said as he was assisting Trevor while Franklin had sub duty. You gonna kill Floyd? Naruto asked Trevor curiously. After the job, 1 less share and 1 less bitchy mouth, Trevor said as he was tired of Floyd now. Use him as a patsy, leave his body in a truck, we say he was the mastermind and that he got betrayed by whoever, and that's actually true, Naruto said to him as Floyd was known at the docks, so if he was in the driver's seat of a Merryweather shipment people would think this was him getting payback after the first time with them. Nice, Trevor said to him. Next day. 5 million mothafs, Trevor said with a smirk as they each got $5 million each. Who knows, maybe we don't need a big score, Michael said as Trevor shot him a dirty look, or maybe we do, he said to him. Man, that was insane, how much did they pay you, Franklin asked Naruto. Cool mill, Naruto said to him. F genius, Trevor said as they celebrated. And to make matters better, Steve Haynes is under investigation with the cops, Naruto said as they all laughed. Speak of the F devil, Michael said as he saw the caller ID. Few minutes later. You know, we stole from Merryweather, they had plenty of high-tech bullets, Enko said coming in. Get a good sniper to make the shot and boom, Michael said as they tested some of them at ammunition and a bullet went right through bulletproof glass. We also have a time limit, they have sensors on the truck like if the door is opened or if the truck is in one place too long, Naruto said to them. How long we got? Trevor asked as Banks had a fast response time with calling the cops. They have the lights timed for red lights from point A to B, so we may have something there, and if the truck stops for more than a minute they radio and alert the police, Naruto said as he'd done enough heists with Banks. And they usually have passwords and that kinda SHT for the all clear, Trevor said as that'd be complicated. So a full minute, 2 dead drivers, we can do that, 2 people on the roof, the other 3 on the ground, Michael said as he and Enko could make the shots easy while Naruto, Franklin, and Trevor stole the bonds. We should park separately, Enko said as she drove to pick up Naruto afterwards. Franklin can take a tow truck, park it somewhere, I'll make a false claim that we got a call of expired plates, Naruto said as that gave Franklin an out. I'll take my chopper, go to Sandy Shores with Michael and he can drive back, Trevor said as he was best at aerial combat. Okay, everyone is ready, we have a day, Naruto said as they all nodded in agreement. Next day. Easy play, Enko said to him as they stopped at a bar to celebrate. Yeah, we really lucked out with Merryweather, Naruto said as they'd have to do a blitz play as a backup and those took too much time and they'd have been surrounded by cops. They're in the clear, Enko said to him as Trevor texted her. Hello Naruto Namikaze, my name is Chris Formage, I'd like to extend you an invitation from the Epsilon program, Chris said to him as he then walked away. Babe, you have a cult of women, why are you looking at that? Anko asked with a raised eyebrow. He knew my name, Naruto said, as that was a little odd. The tone the man spoke in was so calm it was unsettling. You're being paranoid, Anko said as Naruto showed her a magatama in the invitation. Weird thing to add, don't you think? Naruto said to her as his interest was piqued now and saw a text he just received. Michael is on his way to see Devin Weston. Come on, he said as they drove off. Few minutes later. Naruto, hey buddy, how's it going and who's this nice tail? Devin said seeing Anko. Another occasional girl, you know me, Naruto said as he built up a persona that he used around Devin, making him think they were on the same level, making him believe something totally false to make him feel safe. Okay assholes, I'm done, Michael said as Naruto told him to pretend not to know him. Naruto watched Devin try to pull an angle on Michael, trying to draw him in using what Michael loved the most. He looked to Anko, who was wearing a disguised necklace that was a camera. She was using it to look over the edge past Devin's car to get a good look at the back. Few hours later. You can do what Michael did and pull it down, Temari said as she looked at the schematics. We'd need a chopper and there is a heavy response team ready to get there in under 30 seconds, Naruto said as scaling the hillside was tough. Either way we need to wait. Devin now has a car FTSH and right now that works for us, he said as Molly was gonna handle it in the end like always. Week later. You man, stop stealing all the women, Trevor said as he tried to call dibs on Molly, but apparently Naruto was ahead of him. Yeah, okay, also listen, how do you feel about a hostage exchange? Make, I don't know, 2 million per kid, Naruto said as those cars were expensive so they'd make some good money like that. How much do you have, man? Franklin asked as Naruto was always talking about money but he never knew how much he earned as a criminal. 70 million, Naruto said, making a lot of them go slack-jawed. Man, Franklin said, not having a response. 1 hour later. I left them with Ron. That cool? Naruto asked Trevor as his place was remote. Yeah, no problem, Trevor said as he was getting a larger cut. Few days later. How goes the car hunting? Naruto asked Franklin curiously. Trevor sold me some tech from a chopper he parted with a scanner. Have Temari breaking down the software. We have an in with the cops now, he said as Temari's network was growing. Ugh man, Franklin said as he really hated Devin Weston. Here, I bought you some stocks, Naruto said to him. Molly informed me of the method of unique payment. Also Michael seems to be getting 8 in, he said as he was gonna let that play out for Michael. 2 weeks later. Idiots, Naruto said as Trevor stole Mrs. Madrazo and ripped off Martin's ear. What the hell is wrong with both of you, he said over the phone. Blame this F up Sientid, Michael said to him. Did you keep the files? Naruto asked him. Yeah, Trevor kept them and I sent it to Temari with the high-power rifle location, Michael said as he had Temari pick it up as a gun that powerful was a waste to get rid of. At least you're getting smarter, Naruto said to him. Listen, hold on to it, okay? I may have some plan in the works, just need time, he said as he made some calls. Lester, hi, remember that thing we talked about, he said to him. Few days later. Naruto, my boy, thank you. Now where are they? Martin said as Naruto called him with information. At sea. How about we get your boat, a few of your men, and we kill them, Naruto said with a smirk. Ah yes, that certainly sounds fun. I want to take my time with them, Martin said, his eyes looking a little red from anger. Few hours later. Don't think we have enough for your men, Naruto said as Martin brought 20 of his men. It's alright now. How is that steak? Martin said as Naruto was grilling. Almost how you like it, Naruto said to him calmly. With Temari. How's it going, Natalia? Temari asked her curiously. Fine. Martin has 20 million. Where would you like me to send it? Natalia asked curiously. 10 to Michael and 5 to Trevor and Mrs. Madrazo, Temari said as Naruto didn't want a single penny from Martin as it was no big loss. With Michael. Come on Franklin, Michael said to himself seeing his ship close in. Don't worry baby, you'll be back home soon, he thought to himself as he missed that boat and jumped at the opportunity to get it back. Michael, Trevor, so good to see you, Martin said as his men cocked their guns and aimed it at them. Trevor, where is my wife? He said angrily. Oh, she on the tip of my PP, Trevor said suggestively as he laughed at Martin. Naruto smirked seeing Franklin climb aboard with a shotgun and began shooting at the men. Die you pricks, Trevor said as they all began to shoot. Few minutes later. Got my goat back and am enjoying a steak, Michael said with a smile. Still gotta stay with Trevor. Martin's loyal men may try to kill you, Naruto said as that was a real possibility. Michael said to himself. Oh, and Trevor, you own 40% of Martin's house, Naruto said to him. Speaking of, Trevor said as all the BLD was attracting sharks and Trevor had Martin hanging over the edge. Wait, I get less than half, he said in anger. Patricia is getting the other percentage, Naruto said as the woman needed something. 1 week later. A car with live rounds, Naruto said as Franklin just stole a car from the movie studio. Okay, good to know, he said to himself as Franklin was almost done and he was sure to take advantage of that. Yeah, but Lamar and Jimmy are involved now, Franklin said to him. Naruto had to admit that was a problem. I'll get back to you on that, he said to him. Epsilon program 10 years, he said as the program started after he and the girls arrived, something that was drawing his attention more and more. Next day. This is kinda crazy even for you. How'd you know he'd make it this far? Michael asked as he and Naruto were looking up to see a plane in the distance. Trevor couldn't land that thing even if he wanted to. Next best thing is to crash it, and luckily for us his house is nearby, so easy salvage, easy pickup. Also look out, Naruto said as boxes started to land nearby. Michael said as they grabbed Trevor's truck and loaded them and put them into his garage. How'd we do? Trevor said, landing on his roof. All weapons, no cash. Upside you have a fully functional military jeep, Naruto said as the jeep had been made to be dropped from a ship as it had built-in parachutes. Better than nothing, Trevor said calmly, going inside. 1 hour later. FCNTS, Trevor said to the FIB agents that left his former cook site. Be chill, alright, we have the equipment for the stuff, Naruto said as they had all the supplies besides the military convoy. He was interrupted when he got a call. Hello, he said, answering the phone, hearing it was from Anko. With Anko. Yo, these assholes are a bunch of scammers. They gave this as some kinda tractor thing, Anko said as she laughed. Listen, they approached me a while ago and wanted to make a deal with me. They said they have something I want, she said to him. Depends on where. Anko never give the enemy an advantage, Naruto said as deals made in public places were for more than incognito. It was to avoid being caught off guard or ambushed. In public I checked, Anko said to him. Go, alright, I gotta steal from the military, Naruto said as they had to move. Okay, Anko said, hanging up and driving away to a coffee shop as that was the meeting's location. 1 hour later. So what do you assholes have for me? Anko said as she stood in front of some Epsilon stooges. Orochimaru, the man said to her, and he soon felt a blade touching his thigh. Not possible. How is that even alive, let alone here? Anko said as Mei and Naruto filled her in on Orochimaru coming back from the dead. They had found more and more of people from their world, but they didn't make the trip as some were just dead when they found them registered as John Does. He works for Merryweather and is currently out at sea at this very moment, the woman next to the man said to her. Where? Anko said, thirsty for the BLD of her MSTR. 1 hour later. Of course, Anko thought as she looked at the coordinates. Naruto thinks it might be a seismic suppressor or some kinda nuclear weapon, she thought as she looked through Naruto's notes on the papers Trevor stole before the Merryweather ship heist. 3 hours later. This is it, Anko thought as she drove a sub out here, not going about this as she normally would and was doing this how Naruto would. Naruto installed a vacuum seal on the door to the sub in case it ever needed to be used to breach a ship from underneath. Merryweather said 12 people on deck, Anko thought as she brought a shotgun with a suppressor on it. Anko slowly moved from below deck upwards. She became the cold-blooded killer she always was, killing off the guards, the men at the control, and slowly went down to come face to face with her first MSTR. 2 hours later. Orochimaru found himself tied to a chair and was gagged, and as he looked around he deduced he was in a submarine. There's no way out, Anko said calmly, surprising her old MSTR with her appearance. We're miles underwater right next to the nuclear device. I've disabled the sub's engines and took the keys. This is where you will die, she said as she imagined all the ways she'd kill him, but this seemed best. Orochimaru was gonna try and say something, but Anko stabbed his stomach with a burning hot knife. You know I killed some people like this, sometimes they light on fire, others their stomach becomes a charred mess, but I won't be here to find out. This is your tomb where you will die painfully, and even if you do manage to get out those ropes, Enko said, stabbing him in a certain location, that BLD will attract sharks. This is shark-infested water, she said as she left, not giving her sensei a second glance as she left him to at the very least suffocate. Few minutes later. Enko looked over the slowly sinking ship and all the information Orochimaru had, intending to give it to Naruto as soon as she could, but soon got another call. 1 hour later. We hope you were satisfied with the information, the man from earlier said. Sure, why not, Enko said as she drank her beverage. We have additional information that we know that you'd like, the man said to her. Oh, what now, Enko said as there wasn't much past Orochimaru that she wanted dead. This is a gift to you and Naruto, the woman said, handing her a file. Followers of Orochimaru, she said to her. Enko smirked as she loved torturing followers of her MSTR, as it gave her such glee. She opened the file and smirked as she recognized some of these women from information back in the leaf and from Naruto, as he was very open about his adventures. 1 hour later. Gurren began to panic as the moment she woke she was tied up and gagged. Hello, Enko said to her. I know you don't recognize me, but we know someone in common, someone I have no doubt you'd spread your legs for, she said, as Naruto was a hero and every woman he saved felt like a princess and fell for him and likely wanted to spread their legs for him. Next day. Now this one I will most definitely enjoy, Enko thought to herself as the woman she was hunting was foul-mouthed and Ibi that needed to be put in her place. Seriously, does the lost never learn, she thought as more bikers were here even after all the killing she, Naruto, and Trevor did here so many times. Enko was on the lookout and soon she spotted a female biker leaving the bikers' territory. Hello 911, a woman fell off her bike, she said with a smirk as she followed Taiyuya taking out a taser gun. Few hours later. A little surprised you were so easy to convince. I mean, come on, I know Naruto is CC, but you dropped everything after I kidnapped you, Enko said to Gurren. Is it because of the pictures, she said with a teasing smile as Gurren froze up. Gurren blushed remembering the pictures Enko showed her as she wanted proof Naruto was here, and she got more than she bargained for as Enko showed her lewd pictures of Naruto and other women. It made her wonder if Naruto looked at her like that, especially when he addressed her wounded leg. He's amazing, you know, woman after woman, and he is still corny, always F and loving us, Enko said to Gurren, wanting to stir up her imagination. He loves us all, but in bed we are all his wares, taking in all that he gives us, she said to her, knowing the woman had a strong urge to serve as all of Orochimaru's men wanted to serve someone powerful or someone they truly respected. Now will you serve Naruto like a good girl? She asked teasingly. Yes, Gurren said immediately. Good, Enko said as she liked this one especially as she betrayed Orochimaru something she liked and admired. Gurren then looked at the two naked women. They had two she knew and disliked. At least they'll be put in their places, she thought with a smile as Enko made her aware that Naruto dominated the women he had SEC with and no one needed to be put more in their places like Taiyuya and Karen. Few minutes later. Fu Dike, Taiyuya said to Enko immediately after she told her about Naruto. Enko smiled at Taiyuya and pulled out her phone, showing her a live feed of Orochimaru in pain and struggling to breathe. Let me make something clear, B. I am not some run-of-the-mill woman in our world. I would have owned you. Your former MSTR is dead, very dead, and those bikers, me and Naruto, kill them on the regular so you can join the winning side or die with the rest of those shitheads, she said, getting on Taiyuya's level, which wasn't very hard. Taiyuya was frozen, seeing a man she feared slowly dying and thinking about all the things she heard happen from the bikers about all the dead ones, and knew there wasn't anything to consider as she nodded in acceptance. Now for you, Enko said, looking at Karen with a displeased look. F stupid CNT, she said, slapping Karen's tips. You willingly followed some a literal piece of SHT, she said, referring to Sasuke. Karen bowed her head as she had years to think back on that, as she felt shame allowing herself to be abused. So ladies wanna have some fun before our man shows up? Enko asked them, playing a video for them. F me, Taiyuya said, looking at Naruto in action. I'm in, she said as she was also told she could make a profit. And you, Enko asked Karen with a non-impressed look. You know, with both you being Uzumakis it would have been your duty to rebuild the clan, she said with a smirk. Okay, Karen said as she lowered her head to hide her blush. Few minutes later. Why are we getting F and not her? Tayuya asked Anko as Anko and Gurren were using strapons on her and Karen. Because I was never loyal to that snake, you little scientist, Gurren said as she was F Tayuya. And good behavior gets rewarded, Anko said with a smirk. Unlike this naughty bee, she said as she was F Karen roughly. And this one, Gurren said as she dealt with Karen a lot when she was in Orochimaru's employ and didn't like her one bit, so F her was a nice payback. 1 hour later. Gurren, Naruto said in surprise seeing his former enemy turned friend seeing her naked. Anko filled him in on what happened and he decided he needed to punish her for telling him sooner. Naruto gathered the girls and made them watch as he got naked, making them marvel at his irked member. He bent Anko over his knee and began to spank her peach with a lot of aggression, and all Anko could do was scream in pleasure. Karen may not have had chakra sensing abilities any longer, but she now had empath abilities, and all she felt from the two was love and lust. Tayuya said as she touched herself as she was a masochist and always wanted to be dominated by a stronger man who just took control of her. Her for all she was worth, and seeing Anko, a woman she viewed as a DM and strong woman, get spanked and was like AB in heat made her feel extra corny for Naruto. Karen, Naruto said, calling her over, placing Anko down on the bed as she rubbed her sore peach and her PP leaked juices. Karen approached Naruto and felt her knees tremble as she saw Naruto's irked member and wasted no time kissing it. She broke long before you touched her MSTR, Anko said as she breathed heavily. She wants to be your SLT, she said, as that was the only thing about Karen she respected. Naruto smiled as he looked down at the female Uzumaki and smirked. Karen ate Naruto as best she could, feeling herself get wetter and wetter. You know, usually all my girls have to be broken in, but you don't seem to have any problems being my SLT, Naruto said to her with a smile. None at all, Karen said as she looked deep into his eyes and Naruto smiled as Karen got on his lap and penetrated herself with his member and began to ride him, and as he enjoyed her work, Gurren came over and kissed him and they began to make out. I missed you, Gurren said as she had thought about Naruto repeatedly after they had met, as he often invaded her dreams and fantasies. She let out a loud feeling his hand massage her BRST. Anko regaining feeling in her peach and went over to an unsuspecting Tayuya and smirked. Easy B, she thought as she pulled her into a kiss and put on a leather collar and leash around the redhead. Karen climaxed all over Naruto's member. Please leak, she asked beggingly as she wanted his leak inside her. Gurren kissed Naruto's chest as he began to SCK on Karen's tips as he picked her up and dropped her onto his at a quick pace. That'll be you B, Anko said to Tayuya as she fingered her. Your body is going to pleasure him as he stuffs you and makes you choke on his PP. You'll become addicted to him, she said with a smirk. How much of a SLT will I be? Tayuya asked curiously, wanting to know how messed up she'd be. That depends all on you. We're all his SLTS and wears some more than others, Anko said with a smile as Naruto broke and destroyed their minds when they rutted like animals in heat. Some broke under the constant pleasure while some merely became addicted. Gurren watched how easily Karen succumbed to the pleasure as Naruto emptied his load in her PP. Weak be no Uzumaki stamina, Anko thought to herself as she looked at the redhead. Don't worry B, will fix your stamina issue, she thought with a sinister smirk as she was intending to mess her up greatly both physically and mentally. Gurren as Naruto's PP poked and prodded her PP, teasing her, but accepted it, not going to complain as she wanted Naruto to enjoy her body. You know I need a girl like you Gurren, a girl who'll do exactly as she's told, Naruto said, whispering into her ear as he teased her. I'll do whatever you ask, Gurren said as Naruto was what she wanted in everything. I want him to be my lover, my man, my husband, and my MSTR, she thought to herself as she'd do anything he'd ask of her. Lick my PP, Naruto said in a simple tone, seeing Gurren drop to her knees eating his PP, showering it with affection. Gurren tasted and adored every inch of Naruto, savoring his taste and how hot his PP was. I love this man and his PP, she thought, loving every last inch of Naruto. I want him to enjoy my body, she thought, remembering when Naruto didn't touch her when he treated her body, now wishing he had. I'll do it to you, you know, in public, make you finjure yourself, maybe strp you down, Naruto said to her. Okay, Gurren said with a smile. You're okay with that? Naruto asked her, wanting to be sure. Yes, Gurren said to him with a smile as she blushed from imagining what he said. Good, Naruto said with a smirk. Gurren felt him feel her body up and down, giving her subtle noticeable teases. Don't ask, she thought, not wanting to ask him anything, wanting him to just enjoy her body, not wanting to make any demands of how he enjoyed using her. She feeling him penetrate her. Go play with Anko, Naruto said as both women left the room, leaving him with Tayuya, who he tugged by the leash. Now for you. You were dead, he said, pulling her close to him. Tayuya nodded. Naruto was a little perplexed as to how she was alive, as she was sealed before the final battle of the war. Either something's up or something else happened on the way here, he thought, not entirely worried but not at ease either. He was brought out of his thoughts as Tayuya was blowing him. Putting your mouth to good use, he said teasingly as he remembered her mouth. Tayuya as he insulted her, finding that to be a turn on. You are gonna be nice SLT Tayuya, Naruto said with a smile. I really like redheads, I might call you frequently, he said with a smirk, feeling her on his PP. Tayuya thinking about Naruto calling her like his own personal SLT, she savored the pre-juices leaking from his PP into her mouth. Maybe you shouldn't wear underwear, be on the ready, Naruto said, grabbing the back of her head. Face F her. Tayuya blushed in pleasure as she looked into Naruto's eyes. Naruto pulled out and showed Tayuya in his juice. Oh there is so much, Tayuya said in awe and amazement as she felt all the juice on her body and began to lick herself, collecting it all and after she swallowed it all. I want more, she said, eating her lips, craving more juice. You haven't cursed at me once, Naruto said, raising a brow. Because stud, why would I insult someone who'll be giving me pleasure, Tayuya said shamelessly. The night was then filled with screams of lust and pleasure. Few days later. So still no answers to how the F this chick is alive, Naruto asked her curiously. Nope, maybe the reanimation kept her alive crossing into this world, Anko said to him. Maybe, Naruto said as there was nothing to disproving that, but seriously someone we know has to be running the Epsilon program. I mean, they knew who you hated and people you'd like to F, he said to her. Yeah, that's concerning, Anko said to him as that worried her. I'll be back in a few days, gonna go steal from the bullshit bank, Naruto said as the heist was gonna happen soon. Still can't believe we have all this military grade SHT, Anko said as the bullets were awesome in her opinion and all the other things they raided from Merryweather and government. Next day. What the F are the charges for? Michael asked as they were inside the bank. This bank is small and they'll be distracted by this cluster F, Naruto said, holding a literal grenade cluster, and threw it outside as he sealed the vault and activated the C4, no one seeing the car outside. Who the F is driving that? Michael asked curiously. No one noticeable, Naruto said as the person behind the wheel was in fact Amanda. You got those hooks? He asked them as he gave them all some really good grappling tech. Still don't see why we need this, Michael said to him seriously. I made a few calls, Naruto said as they looked outside, seeing a military chopper shoot up, he said as they wiped out the current wave of cops and could hear more approaching in the distance. They quickly shot the military and soon used the grappling hook on the chopper and climb up quickly, stealing the helicopter. 3 hours later. 30 million CNT, Naruto said to Steve Haynes' newest assistant, his name escaping him, but he sent Anko his info days earlier, and after he delivered the money and reported about Steve Haynes, he was to be taken out and have a similar incident like Sanchez. 1 week later. The F do you mean Lester didn't pay you? Naruto asked Franklin as he got a call from him saying he took a job for the nerdy man but wasn't paid. Yeah homie, just as I was about to pull the trigger my target got iced, Franklin said to him. Oh god, listen, I'll spot you the money he was gonna pay you, Naruto said as Lester had a no play no pay motto which caused a lot of problems. Next day. Looks like someone is pulling a Lester, Naruto thought, looking at local news, hearing whispers and mentions. Okay, Franklin's target was at that hotel. Witness protection, the parking lot doesn't have surveillance but Los Santos Customs does, he said to himself as he called that Los Santos Customs outside the parking lot and got the footage, and after a few searches he got someone, not Anko. He thought seeing a woman on a motorcycle pulling up in front of the place, taking off her helmet to look at her phone. Samui, he said, remembering the woman with the teammate that beat him, also remembering she was a student of B. Samui was wearing a ice blue shirt under a biker jacket barely containing her cup melons, and did nothing to hide her nice curves, and wore leather pants tight on her large supple round peach. Few hours later. Thanks Temari, Naruto said, leaving his tech genius all tired and sweaty after finding out all the information she could on Samui. Next day. Been a while since I did a house call, Naruto said as he had to admit he was surprised when he found out Samui lived in a house down the block from Michael's place. I should really start making a list, he thought to himself as he knocked on the door. Samui opened the door to see none other than Naruto Namikaze. Hi, she said simply. Please come in, she said to him. So can I ask? Naruto asked her curiously as they sat down. Ask anything you'd like, Samui said calmly and respectively. Why are you being so forthcoming? Naruto asked curiously, as even though he didn't have chakra he didn't still have some empathic abilities, and Samui was incredibly calm and trusting of him. Because my MSTR was someone who I respected, and he respected you a great deal and saw you as an equal, and I was most impressed with your contributions in the war, and you even saved my life during it, and you've been on my mind for a long time, Samui said honestly. You reek of SEC, she said calmly. Yeah, I had SEC before coming here, Naruto said, unsure of what to say. It's fine. So who is she? Samui asked, desiring to know. More like they, Naruto said to her, never ashamed of his relationship status. You have a HRM, Samui said, a noticeable perk appearing in her. May I ask how you are with your women? She asked curiously. Easy, I dominate, Naruto said, finding this conversation enjoyable. I F them to the point where they are begging for release, begging for my juice, F them like a crazed animal, making them weak in the knees, sending them to nirvana, he said to her proudly, bringing up a group chat he had with all his lovers and asked them to send him a NDE, showing Samui his phone. She saw many lewd images and messages appear. I am the same, Samui said, eating her lips. With who? Naruto asked curiously. My wife and daughter, Samui said, making Naruto look at her. My wife is my teammate. She was married to a friend of yours, Choji. I apologize, he passed years back, she said to him. Easy come easy go, Naruto said to her as he motioned for her to continue. Anyway, my wife gave BRTH to an appealing little girl whom I've loved and raised as my own, and after I wedded her mother I F her furiously whenever a moment leaked. I made her my SLT, Samui said proudly as she smiled at him, and he sent one back at her, making her blush, and the moment the girl I raised turned 18 I F her, she said to him, handing him a picture of her daughter. What is her name? Naruto asked, seeing the 18-year-old dark-skinned beauty. She had large DD cup melons, slim curvy body, and a bubbly peach. Cho-cho, Samui said to him. Oh, where are my manners? She said, clapping her hands. Naruto soon saw a familiar face of Karui appear as she wearing a short French-made outfit, sweating, and had a very noticeable blush. What you do? He asked curiously. She misbehaved the other day and now has a powerful VBRTR in her PP set to the highest setting, and NLBDS inside her as more than a dozen each, a little bigger than a golf ball, Samui said to him as Karui served them tea, showing off her peach to them as she bent down to pour the tea for each of them. Hey Samui, would you like to join my HRM? Naruto asked politely. Yes, oh god yes, Samui said, sounding as if Naruto's suggestion was gonna give her an orgasm. Take my SLT of a wife and daughter as well, she said with a happy smile. You know, I don't think my teammate properly apologized for what she did to you that day. Please take any aggression you have on her out on her body. She's no more than your pleasure toy now, she said with a smile, seeing Karui stiffen. Karui, sit on my lap, Naruto said, seeing Samui glare at Karui for hesitating and looking back at her, and soon did as he instructed. Tell me, how does Samui F you? He asked her, kissing her melons. She F me with a strap on sometimes, or makes me pleasure her PP, Karui said as her teammate successfully made her B. Does it turn you on that she F your daughter? Naruto said with a smirk, seeing her blush. Answer, he said, playing with the cord to her NLBDS, lightly tugging it. Yes, Karui said as she loudly. Good, Samui said with a smile, happy to know that. Samui, where is your bedroom? Naruto asked her and watched her smile as she lead him to the room. On your hands and knees, he said to Karui as she got on the bed. Now have you F either of them before the other? He asked Samui curiously. No, Samui said, feeling a little embarrassed that she had yet to do that. Go get Cho-cho, Naruto said commandingly. Samui did as commanded and went to her daughter's room smiling, seeing her daughter clad in nothing but her BR and panties on her phone laying on her stomach unaware of her presence. "Oh Chocho, normally I'd F your unsuspecting body, but you now serve a new MSTR, she said as she F Chocho whenever she could, and seeing her like this was an opportunity. SLT, she said, spanking her peach. "Yes daddy," Chocho said, jumping in alert. Samui smiled, being called her daddy as it always made her feel wet. "Juice," she said as Chocho making her follow her to her room. "Look at your wear of a mother," she said to her daughter. Chocho looked at her mother and screaming like a where as a handsome blonde man she'd never seen pull NLBDS out. "Mother's peach, who's that?" she asked Samui. "My MSTR, meaning he's yours too," Samui said, her hand going into Chocho's panties and began fingering her and massaging one of her melons. "Samui, which sounds better to you, making Karui watch as I F her daughter and you F her, making sure she watches, or vice versa?" Naruto asked her curiously. "F Chocho," Samui said, eating her lips as she strppd down and put on a strap-on she had in her room. "Chocho, go greet your MSTR, she said to the girl commandingly. "Hi," Chocho said, blushing a little as she looked at the naked man, feeling a little intimidated by his large PP. "I knew your father well, you know," Naruto said to her, getting closer to her, making her look him in the eye. "He was a clan heir, meaning you're an heiress," he said, making Chocho's eyes widen, making her feel special. "Look at him," Samui said as she was currently F Karui in her peach, making your daughter clay in his hands, she said with a smile. "You are such a SLT, our daughter just as much a SLT as you," she said to her wife. She said as she thrust it harder into Karui. "God, I haven't been this turned on since our wedding night, the night I made you my woman," she said with a proud smile. Karui remembered that night well as Samui F her relentlessly making her into her own personal SLT, and every night after never giving her a moment of rest, always F her whenever the opportunity presented itself, and the day her daughter turned 18 and knowing Samui F her as well made her feel ashamed as the very thought made her corny. Samui smirked seeing Chocho be lifted up by Naruto, seeing her wrap her legs around him and try and bounce on his PP inside her PP. "Poor girl," she thought with a grin, seeing the euphoria on Chocho's face. "Can't even handle a real PP," she thought to herself as she couldn't blame Chocho for that. "Samui did a nice job training you, but I need to sharpen some of your skills," Naruto said, pressing her against a wall, feeling her PP tighten, and felt her kiss his neck. 2 hours later. "I'm sorry about them MSTR, Samui said with a flushed face as she lightly bounced on Naruto's lap, his PP currently in her PP as her wife and daughter on the floor drenched in juices along with their holes leaking out juices as well. "It's fine honestly," Naruto said, massaging her peach cheeks. "I'll want them trained Samui, you have a lot of work to do," he said to her, already filled her in on his standards. "Oh FMSTR, I will strap them down, tie them up, put vibrators in all their holes, F them sinless, make them commit shameless acts, and allow your fellow lovers to use them however they or you deem fit," Samui said as Naruto had began slamming her on his lap, making his PP pierce her WMB. "Good," Naruto said as he unleashed a heavy load into her WMB, making her cry out his name as even though he leaked inside her he still kept up his thrusts. 1 week later. "You want to break in by yourself," Dave said as he was currently drinking coffee with Naruto. "Yeah, Haynes wants to move in and get some form of glory and also have some SHT with the nerve toxin. You can't lie that it'd be safer in my hands than his. I'll deliver it to you, and when Haynes tries to get it himself and fails you'll look even better," Naruto said calmly. "How do you intend to get in?" Dave asked curiously. "Same way Dipass did through the ocean, but I'll be able to get in and out the way I came," Naruto said to him. "The way you're talking about can't work. The water will be too hot and the toxin will be inert then," Dave said as Steve filled him in on that way. "Yeah, the water is hot because it's a cooling system," Naruto said as it used to be an old-style cooling system, but they used the water to lower the temperatures of a few devices that built up heat. "Anyway, if I turn it off when I enter, the heat will dissipate its water from the ocean," he said to him. "I assume you know the required gear?" Dave asked as he both knew and didn't know about Naruto, as officially he was as clean as they, but unofficially he was a skilled criminal and he knew it. Next day. "I swear this is so remote," Naruto said as he was south of Mount Kiliot heading for a remote docks and stopped, seeing someone in the middle of the road, someone who looked like a ghost to him. "Hinata," he said, stepping out of the car, and as he approached her he froze. "Not quite," The woman said she was wearing a simple kimono that outlined her body perfectly. She had low F-cup melons, a curvy body, and a nice bubbly but supple peach. It is a pleasure to meet you Naruto. My name is Hitomi Hyuga, she said, bowing her head slightly. You're Hinata's mother, Naruto said, as that was the only other thing he could connect her to. How astute, Hitomi said with a smile. Now I know you should be dead, Naruto said, as he knew Hinata's mother was deceased and that she wasn't taken, as he asked some of his friends when Kabuto had stolen corpses. The only one that had ties to the two Hyugas he knew that was taken was Niji's father. This changes things. Tayuya was reanimated. How the F is she alive, he thought to himself, seeing the doc past her. True, may you come with me for a moment, Hitomi asked politely, walking toward a house not too far. Guess I'm not pressed for time, Naruto thought as he saw no one in the distance, and she was taking him to the house literally not a half mile from his destination, and he was currently early. Few minutes later. This is not what I was expecting, Naruto thought to himself as the house looked haunted on the outside, but on the inside it was state-of-the-art and fully furnished. His interest was piqued when he saw a symbol on the wall, the Epsilon program, he thought to himself. I assume you have question, Hitomi said, making some tea. Not really, Naruto said as she looked at him curiously. I'm gonna take a quick stab and say whoever is your F leader, they still have access to chakra, he said to her simply. Only hard part is narrowing down who, cause I know it can't be Orochimaru or Kabuto, he said, knowing that Orochimaru was dead, and even if Kabuto was here it'd be for more nefarious purposes. It has to be someone who knows how to resurrect the dead, and the fact you have this whole BS religion means it definitely ain't the second Hokage. So who, he asked her simply. My you sure haven't changed, Ashura, a female voice said, getting Naruto's attention. That voice, Naruto said, turning around, seeing the woman who was the cause of him and everyone coming here, Kaguya Otsutsuki, wearing a smaller, much less constricting and formal version of her robes. She had large GG-cup melons, a very curvy body, and a large supple peach. Naruto angrily ran up to her and pressed her into a wall, taking out a switchblade. Give me a reason why I shouldn't kill you, he said angrily. I can give you hundreds, but come Ashura, let us discuss, Kaguya said, getting out of his grip. My name is Naruto, Naruto said as he may carry Ashura's spirit, but the bloodline connection from Naruto to her was so vast it was non-existent. Alright, now can we talk, Kaguya said as she sat down on a chair. I'm assuming you have brought certain people back to life, Naruto said, stating the obvious, looking at Hinata's mother. Yes, Kaguya said with a smirk, and you were correct, I still have chakra, she said, hearing his earlier discussion. How do you know the reanimation technique, Naruto asked, and then froze as he remembered she used Madara's body to reconstitute herself, and he did know the technique. My tree, if you will, when we were in our world and my tree captured everyone, I got the technique from someone who knew it, Kaguya said to him simply. You have access to everyone's memories, Naruto asked in surprise. Mostly I have some before they got loose and broke apart from the tree as we came to this world. You should know that, I mean, people are appearing at different times, Naruto, Kaguya said with a smile. Okay, as fascinating as all this is, why the F are you sane? And follow up, what the hell do you want? Naruto asked her. I want you and I to join forces, Kaguya said, seeing the look of surprise in his eyes. You don't have all your chakra, do you? Naruto said, knowing this woman was too proud to ever ask for help. No, you can say I'm limited for the time being, Kaguya said to him. The tree you said broke apart, Naruto said in realization of how she phrased herself earlier. The tree was damaged, he said to her. Yes, and I believe you can fix it, Kaguya said to him with a smile. Think about it, Naruto, work with me, this world is so easy, help me rule it from the shadows, she said, giving him her pitch. I've done my research on you, I know how much you like the pleasure of the flesh, she said, motioning to Hitomi. Naruto had to weigh his options because he could tell Hitomi wasn't under any control or genjutsu as she showed no signs. I could regain chakra, he thought to himself as he pushed his hatred. What do you need? He asked her simply. Kaguya got up and took him to the basement and saw a hole in the ground as it looked like a giant well. Ignore the bodies, the daughter killed the mother and was mentally unhinged, she said as she raised her hands, and soon a familiar but smaller tree appeared. Naruto had a few guesses as to what the woman needed from him specifically, and his main answer was it revolved around a sun mark he formerly had in their world, and as he touched the tree he saw a golden light appear and then checked his hand and saw his mark and once again felt chakra coursing through him. Kaguya as she felt the power increase in the tree. 1 hour later. To a new alliance, Kaguya said as she and Naruto drank champagne together, and to show my appreciation I have a gift for you Naruto, she said with a smirk, your teammates they need to be punished, she said as she had studied Naruto since she saw his return on the news looking through the memories of everyone that had an interaction with him and to say she was impressed was an understatement she did hate that Naruto was treated so poorly by his friends and teammates so she had an idea for him to get a little revenge. What did you do? Naruto asked wondering what the woman's game was. Hitomi if you please, Kaguya said clapping her hands. I gotta ask why does she serve you? Naruto asked curiously. Because Naruto those who work for me get rewarded and whatever they longing, Kaguya said with a superior smile. Hitomi soon came back with two familiar faces to Naruto. May I present Mikoto Uchiha and Mabuki Haruno, Hitomi said present her fellow MILFs who were both naked and blushing. Mikoto had large E-cup melons, a curvy and athletic body, and a nice supple peach. Mabuki had low DD-cup melons, a curvy and slim body, and a decent round peach. You see Naruto I feel you deserve to have some vengeance on your team and seeing as these two, Kaguya said looking at the two women, are just desperate whereas I felt it was a perfect match, she said with a smile. Yes Naruto these two are SLTS desperate for some good if they often told me how disappointing their husbands were in bed, Hitomi said with a smirk seeing them blush even brighter. Both of you kneel, Kaguya said in a demanding voice as both women did as instructed, your children are terrible, she said as that was the truth, your son is psychotic and has nothing he is no warrior no survivor he just wants to kill he is a butcher, she said looking at Mikoto, and you your daughter is a moron always blaming others for things she yet to has a grasp on she is no woman only a little girl you failed to put in place, she said as Sakura had no appeal in her mind, you both owe this man everything for not only keeping those failures you call children alive but also for the pain they have caused him am I clear, she said seeing them nod. Naruto was actually turned on right now as he wanted to F these MILFs into SBMSN. Let's start you off with something like Mabuki, Hitomi said getting the blonde's attention, he's going to F your peach, she said knowing Mabuki was very vanilla and wanted to break her seeing as she had no room to say no. Mabuki blushed very brightly it would have put her daughter's childhood blushes to shame, she went over to Naruto and watched him strp and blushed seeing his monster of a PP and turned around and sat on it dropping onto it thinking the pain would be quicker that way, but was very mistaken as she was now screaming as tears came down her eyes. I need to ask, Naruto said grabbing Mabuki by her thighs and thrust it into her anus making the woman and scream in pleasure and pain looking at Hitomi, how are you such a SLT, he asked as he was surprised by the Hyuga woman's attitude. Little secret amongst my clan's women we like bad boys and aren't as prim and proper in the sheets, Hitomi said as she then strppd and kissed Mikado, and this one has had such a dry SEC life it's not even funny, she said groping Mikado. She agreed to be your SLT immediately Naruto you were the only one to fight for her son pointless as it is now but she appreciated it and she's a nympho had to use so many SEC toys in her marriage, she said as she even used them on her friend on some occasions. Well SLT what do you have to say, Naruto asked Mikado as Mabuki was squirting out juices as he F'd both her holes making her scream out her affections for him. I want to be your toy MSTR, Mikado said with a light blush as Hitomi ate her tips, Itachi was my only son after what Sasuke has done I no longer feel any love toward him and now all I want is to be your cocksleeve please use my holes, she said practically begging for him to F her. I will after I'm done with her, Naruto said as he spanked Mabuki's peach. Kaguya watched with a smile as she saw Naruto put these women in their place. Few hours later. I'll have them delivered to your home, Kaguya said with a smirk as Naruto nodded and left. Few minutes later. Idiots, Naruto thought using his chakra to break the steel bars to the underwater tunnel and made his way through, shut of time, he thought cutting a cable disabling the cooling vents but not the base's power, he easily made it by passing by security guards and everything and soon made it to the lab shocked to see a familiar face. One he hadn't seen in a long, long time. Tsunade Senju. Former 5th Hokage. Largest tips in their village. Terrible gambler. In the flesh. Naruto was absolutely stunned. Naruto, Tsunade said in pure shock, her body being both model-like with its curves and very thick, her melons being low GG cup, and her appealing bubbly peach being large and supple. Bachan, Naruto said out of habit. Still in a daze. Tsunade slapped the back of his head. We're the same age, she said, never been more happy about that fact. These people kidnapped you. Naruto said, seeing her with the virus and wearing an ankle monitor. Yep, you think you can deactivate it there dash, Tsunade was saying until she saw him use chakra. Of course you still have your chakra, she said, rolling her eyes a little jealous. Not like I use it all the time. I prefer to get my hands dirty personally nowadays when needed. Naruto said, not mentioning he got it back recently and by Kaguya of all people. Mind getting me out of here? Tsunade asked and soon wished she hadn't as Naruto took her out the way he leaked. The warm water now ice cold, soaking her clothes and making her tips harden from the sheer freezing touch. I have a few lawyers and stole this security footage, you can sue them later, Naruto said, seeing her brighten hearing that. Great, Tsunade said, stripping as they got to his car in nothing but her panties, and heels. Take me home, we have much to discuss, she said with a smile. Naruto didn't hear her as he was too distracted from staring at her clad tips. Tsunade shook her head, seeing him not even answer her. However, she was getting tired of the car not moving. Naruto, quit staring at my bub and get this car moving. She commanded him, very glad he liked her body. 1 hour later. Nice place, Naruto said, admiring her mansion with a smile as they went to the living room and there was sake already on the table. Yeah, I got a pretty good deal on this place. Owner asked for a tip F. I broke one of his legs. I didn't break the other one as a thank you. She said, chuckling at the memory. So how have you been? She asked, wanting to hear what he had been up to. Easy, I'm a successful businessman, have a double life as a criminal, stealing from other criminals and assholes, I have an army of women that I love and F constantly, and a bunch of other stuff in between, Naruto said to her in total honesty. Normally Tsunade would have been concerned about everything Naruto said. But considering how this world is, she had no qualms with anything he just said. Even the women. Sounds fun. KNKY even. Tsunade said, a little aroused at the thought of Naruto pleasuring an army of Bes on the regular. I may not have an army, but I do keep an eye out for people from our world and have these two to keep me company, she said, snapping her fingers. Naruto watched, seeing Shizune and Mabui walk in dressed as maids. Shizune had large FF cup melons, a hourglass figure, and a large plump peach. Mabui has low F cup melons, an athletic and slightly curvy body, and a round well-toned peach. When did Shizune get tips? Naruto asked, surprised at seeing her new massive bub. Little SLT was hiding them with a seal, Tsunade said, spanking her peach, still punishing her for her lie, she said, taking a sip of her sake. Well, maybe I can take a crack at her for her punishment. Naruto jokingly said as he punished many of his girls and knew where to hit home as he knew all of them personally before coming to this world. You know what, sure. Shizune, you SLT, get over there and do everything he tells you to. The tipsy Tsunade demanded as she wanted a show as she drank, and watching the man she fantasized about going to take her assistant was definitely gonna be a show. Yes, Tsunade-sama. Shizune said obediently as she blushed as she walked to Naruto, as Tsunade wasn't the only one that had fantasies about him. She got on Naruto's lap, spreading her legs so they were on both sides of him. Naruto pulled her into a nice kiss which made Shizune in delight and soon louder as he took the kiss even higher as he invaded her mouth, erotically claiming it. Oh, Tsunade thought with a smirk as she drank and was excited seeing Naruto rip off Shizune's clothes. Mabui watched silently, her PP getting wet as she had never seen a member that big from what she could tell from the outline in Naruto's pants, as the rakage was sorely lacking in comparison. Say SLT, how's about you lick me since you're just standing there? Tsunade commanded Mabui as she removed her panties and freed her tips from the war crime that was her BR. Yes, MSTRS. Mabui said as she knelt down and started to lick at Tsunade's folds, lapping up the woman's juices like she was dying of thirst. Shizune undid Naruto's pants and cowered slightly from how intimidating his member looked. Tsunade and Shizun always knew how big Naruto was as they were his doctors in their world and PRSTT was a regular thing. They both wondered to themselves how they never took him then and there. Are you scared, Shizun? Naruto asked a little jokingly and mockingly to the black-haired woman. Yes, Shizun said in admittance as her fear did nothing to stop how corny she felt. Don't worry. I'll be gentle. Maybe. However, by the end you will be loving it either way, Naruto said with a smirk to Shizun. Shizun as he ripped off the taters of her BR and panties. Tsunade, Naruto said, getting the attention of the former Kage. Yes, Tsunade said, burying Mabui's head in her PP. You owe me a lot of debt, Naruto said to her, making her eyes widen. Tsunade blushed as she often gambled with Naruto and gathered a strong amount of debt. I'll take Shizun as payment for some of the debt, Naruto said with a smirk. Tsunade nodded immediately to that offer, winking at Shizun. What do you wish of me, Mstr? Shizun said, already fully committed to Naruto. Kiss my PP. I want proof of your eternal servitude, Naruto said to her, smiling as she bowed down and kissed his head lovingly with passion. I wonder what else he'll ask for, Tsunade thought in fear and lust as Shizun didn't cover much of her debt. Now I want Mabui, Naruto said to Tsunade. Mabui looked at her Mstrs and saw her nod and went over to Naruto and began kissing him. Tsunade watched as her assistants pleasured and serviced Naruto, feeling very envious of which was unknown why that was. Now, Naruto said, looking at Tsunade as Shizun and Mabui kissed his body and played with his PP, for the rest of your debt, he said, looking at Tsunade predatory. How much did I pay off? Tsunade asked him as her PP moistened, as being in debt never felt so pleasurable. Not even half, Naruto said to her with a small grin. Wanna play a hand? You win, it's gone, and if you lose you are mine in every sense, he said with a smile. Tsunade nodded, getting off the couch, walking in her heels to grab a deck of cards. 5 minutes later. We play a single hand of poker, standard rules, Naruto says, shuffling the cards before dealing himself and Tsunade a hand. Tsunade had to keep her poker face as he saw the cards she drew. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all clubs. A straight flush. It took all of her willpower to not grin. Are you gonna take any new cards? Naruto asked Tsunade as Mabui and Shizun were currently kneeling and rubbing against his PP obediently. Nah. I'm happy where I am, brat. How about you? She asked. I'm perfectly fine where I am, so how's about you show me yours and I show you mine, he asked. Ooh, ballsy brat. Fine. Read M and weep. Straight flush. Tsunade cheered, thinking her debt would be paid. However, her cheer died suddenly at Naruto's unflinching gaze. I'm reading them, yes. But I'm not weeping. However, I think you might be soon, Naruto said as he laid his cards down. King, Queen, Ace, Jack, 10. All hearts. A royal flush. What? Tsunade asked in shock. Was her luck so bad that she had an amazing hand and still lost? You lose, Tsunade. You're mine now, he said as he gestured for her to stand before him so he may inspect his newest acquisition. Tsunade never felt so vulnerable to the man that secretly invaded her fantasies and her dreams, often making her stain the sheets from the day they met. Am I desirable, Mstr? She asked often, wondering how he saw and looked at her. I see your mouth moving, but I have a condition where I can't hear my slaves unless they're NDE and bouncing their cow tips for my amusement, he told her with a mocking smirk. Tsunade blushed, catching on to what he wanted from her. She placed her hands on the back of her head and started doing squats, her tips bouncing as she did. Does this please you, Mstr? She asked. Naruto grinned at his new SLV. Yes, it does, but I feel like something's missing. Oh, I know. You haven't pledged yourself to me yet. Why not say an oath of servitude to me now while you squat, he told her. Tsunade said, gathering the words, pledge myself to you. I swear to be your loyal bee and shall do anything you ask of me. My body is yours. Every inch of it is your property and you can do with it as you please, she said, fully submitting to the man before her as her MSTR, nay, her god. Ah, the sweet sound of wares knowing their place. Is there anything better? Naruto asked himself as he looked at his newest addition. I do not know MSTR, Tsunade answered his question. Yes, because a bimbo like you doesn't know anything except how to please her MSTR, he told her as he beckoned her to come closer to him while also motioning for Shizune and Mabui to stand before him. 3 wares for me to choose from. I want to hear each of you beg me to F you over the other slaves here. Mabui, you start, he commanded. I wanted you to take me the moment I laid eyes on you MSTR, Mabui said unashamed. The rakeage was weak limp-d loser that had to resort to kidnapping in the hopes of producing any offspring since everyone in Kumo knew he barely had a 1-inch PP, she said in a completely serious tone. Naruto smirked, having a low opinion of the man already liking what he heard. You are the only one worth serving, MSTR. Shizune said with a blush and a kneeled down, bowing her head. Tsunade is what she seems. A drunken worthless ware, she said with a serious look, having no respect for her former MSTR, she has denied her true self for too long. Masquerading behind political power. I beseech thee MSTR. If I am not chosen first, I ask you to make her wait as punishment for her cruelty. O great and powerful MSTR, Shizune said, never once getting up from her kneeling bow. And you? Naruto said to Tsunade with a smirk. Tsunade immediately squatted down and started to move her tips up and down in a bounce while she spoke every word. Remembering his words from earlier. MSTR, I am your personal juice dumpster, willing to do whatever you demand. Had I known how manly you were, I would have offered you my body from day one of us meeting. You are the true Hokage of Konoha. Tsunade claimed whorishly. Mabui, Naruto said with a grin as she stepped forward. Ask and it shall be done MSTR, Mabui said, having no problems, as after being SBMSSV to Tsunade there were few if any acts she wouldn't perform. I want both of you to stand there and watch, Naruto said commandingly to Tsunade and Shizune. Nothing else, he said to them sternly. I want you to blow me, he said to Mabui, who wasted no time putting his entire member in her mouth, taking and savoring it. Both women of the leaf watched as Mabui shamelessly as if she experienced pleasure and excitement just from the simple act of ORL. Oh f yeah. Work that mouth B. Enjoy the show SLTS, he commanded the 2 leaf women as he placed a hand on the back of Mabui's head. Mabui as Naruto's member stretched her throat and he gave her no room to breath and had no resistance to him whatsoever. If I knew Kumo girls were this easy, I would have taken a stop down there during my training trip with Pervy Sage, he mentioned with a smirk towards Tsunade and Shizune to let them know how good this Kumo SLT was doing, hoping to mess with them a little. Both women whimpered quietly. They couldn't pleasure themselves, and now hearing how amazing Mabui is was starting to drive them crazy. Mabui kept her pace, blowing Naruto, looking him in the eye as she did it, having no shame at all in how she looked or acted before him as she serviced his every whim and need. F. Take my load Mabui. He shouted as he pushed Mabui's head down to the base of his PP as he unloaded his hot SMN down her vice-like throat. Mabui gulped, having to admit the fire hose amount of juice going down her throat was too much to handle. While she managed to swallow most of it, some flooded out her mouth and dripped down not only onto her massive melons, but onto the floor beneath her. Not bad for your first time B, Naruto said, as it was a feat to be able to take that much of his load on the first attempt. However, a good B knows not to waste any juice. Lick it up, he commanded the dark-skinned woman before him. Mabui first ate her body clean before getting on the floor and ate up the juice that dropped onto it, having no amount of shame in what she was doing. When she finished eating up the juice like the hungry bee she was, she opened her mouth and let her tobia hang out to show her MSTR that she had eaten all of it. Naruto petted her affectionately like one did a pet. Very good Mabui. Now I want you to move your CC Peach over here and bounce on my PP facing the 2 leaf wares over there and tell them exactly what my PP is doing to your hole. He commanded as without hesitation Mabui stepped toward him and hovered over his PP in a reverse cowgirl position. Mabui looked at Tsunade and Shizune with a smug and pleased expression on her face as she looked at them watching her ride their MSTR. Watch what MSTR's massive PP does to me, ladies. She exclaimed as she dropped down on it without hesitation, feeling it impale her fully reached depths no other had ever reached with her. The women watched in envy, able to make out Naruto's from inside Mabui, seeing he was literally rearranging her insides for just his PP. Ah! MSTR is so big and thick. I can feel him already impaled directly into my WMB. Mabui out at the feeling of his massive PP inside her. Both women felt their ovaries water from the thought of having such a strong thing in them. "Oh MSTR," Mabui said as she felt Naruto play with her peach, slapping and fingering it as she bounced on his member, moving at incredible speeds. "Keep describing it to them. I want them to know what they'll feel when I'm through with you," he told Mabui. "His PP is monstrous. Every time he enters me I feel like I'm being punched and spread open. It's amazing," Mabui said as she screamed, and which intensified when he grabbed her hips, roughly slamming her down on his PP as he thrusts up and blows his load directly in. Her WMB causing her to CLMX intensely and her abdomen to visibly inflate, causing Tsunade and Shizun's eyes to widen in shock at how much seed Naruto was dumping in Mabui's WMB. Naruto looked at her and smiled, seeing her euphoric face, seeing her twitch and jolt from pleasure from the slightest movements he did. Getting an idea that causes him to smirk devilishly, Naruto pushes Mabui off him, causing her to crash to the floor. Then standing up, Naruto positioned himself behind her with his PP probing the entrance to her dark star, causing her eyes to widen. "You have been teasing me with this thick chocolate peach of yours, and now you're going to pay the consequences as I destroy your tight peach," Naruto said. Mabui screamed as Naruto slid right into her peach, spreading it wide. Naruto's sheer size put pressure on her bloated and stuffed WMB that his insertion into her peach caused the juice he deposited in there to start gushing out of her well-F pages. She seemed incoherent from the assault of pleasure she was getting. "F," she said as she cried in pleasure, "F me MSTR, F your SLT please, I'll be good, I'll take care of whatever you need, I shall serve you in any way you deem fit," she said, wanting to serve her MSTR and to please him in any way he wanted her to serve him. Naruto groaned as her peach clenched tightly around his, making Mabui take him to his base like he did with her PP, wanting her to feel him entirely. "F hell B. Your peach is like a vice," he grunted out as he was having trouble moving in and out due to her tightness. Mabui knew her peach would never be the same as Naruto was making her peach adjust to his size, and so it would only be for his pages. "Maybe I should walk around the city with you impaled on my PP like this. Make you my own little PP ornament," he said as she was so tight he couldn't really move as much, so maybe she'd be better off acting like a wearhood ornament. All Mabui could do was scream and CLMX, riding out a massive orgasm, spraying the floor in her juices and Naruto's juice still dripping out of her, and soon blacked out. "Such a shame," Naruto said as he gently put her to the side, looking at the remaining two women. "Now then, where should be next, I wonder?" he asked himself, thinking on which one should serve him next. Both women blushed as they looked at him with lustful hunger as they saw Naruto look at them like an animal would its prey, which made them all the hornier. "Shizun," Naruto said, calling her over. Shizun squealed slightly as she always had a crush on Naruto as he was so handsome even for someone of his age. She gained a small crush, and after all his examinations all she ever wanted was for him to press that nicely developed body against her and use her in any way he saw fit. "I'm very disappointed you tried to hide these tips, Shizun," Naruto said, pinching her tips. "I'm sorry," Shizun said as she let out a whiny as she felt like she had disappointed him hiding something from him. "Sorry isn't good enough. I want you to make them bounce as you call yourself every name you can think of. And if you do a good enough job, I'll let you touch my pages," he said, wanting to see her debase herself as an apology. "I'm a worthless, PP slurping, juice guzzling where. Everything I do with my useless, salty body is for the enjoyment of my MSTR. Please accept this pathetic bee's apology and use me like I should have been used from when we first met," Shizun said, crying out, wanting his forgiveness. Each word accentuated with a bounce of her tips. Naruto smirked in amusement, glad about the show he was witnessing. "Please MSTR, let me pleasure you and be rewarded with your juice when you deem fit. I have pleasured you properly," Shizun said to him, a lewd look and desperation on her face. "Very well. Let's see how you do at slurping my PPB." Let's see if you are as worthless as a SLV as you are an assistant, he commanded Shizun as he leaned back on the couch with his rock-hard PP pointing up right in front of her. Yes, Shizun said, wanting to prove her worth to him and prove that she was a decent enough assistant to be his juice SLT. She kneeled down and ate his PP that had recently been inside Mabui. It tastes amazing, she thought, dreaming of this moment with his PP in her mouth. This is your proper place, Shizun, Naruto said, thinking this was the position meant for her. Maybe while I'm at my desk you'll be beneath it eating me off. Maybe I should keep you chained under my desk in the perfect position to SCK my meat all day and twerk your fat peach and tight PP on it all day long. Maybe that'd be the position you were meant for as the office pet, he said with a smirk to the kneeling woman blowing him. I'd love it, Shizun said as she'd take any position he's give her, SXL or otherwise. And how would you like it when I make you serve me in every possible way more than Swanda ever did, Naruto asked her teasingly. I'd love it and do it for you, MSTR. There is no one I'd rather serve than you. Shizun said to him loudly, making a claim on him to be his office juice dump. Good answer where? However, get back to eating my pages where mouths have only one use and it sure ain't talking like you've been doing since we started. Naruto told her dominantly. As you wish, Shizun said, taking in his PP, eating it with impressive skill as she had been preparing for this day for a long time by using toys she had made modeled after Naruto's PP, though even then the toys were slightly smaller than his actual size given how she was only able to use his flaccid state as a base for her estimates. Ah, this is the life. A passed out bee on the floor after being unconscious, another bee trying to keep from touching herself while a third bee blows me. There's almost nothing that can top this except bringing in more Bess. Naruto out as Shizun ate him off expertly. How are you, Tsunade? He asked, wondering how his big-tibbed blonde was. Tsunade cried slightly, please MSTR, I need you, my PP aches for you, I need to filled by you, she said to him, watching her former assistant blow the man she loved and lusted for. Then you need to wait your turn like a good little needy bee, play with yourself as I want that PP good and ready for me when I finish wrecking your former assistant here. However, you are forbidden to juice. You are to bring yourself to the edge of leaking before stopping each time. If you fail and end up leaking, then I won't F you and will instead just keep F Shizun and Mabui here forcing you to watch, Naruto commands as he shoved Shizun's head down, making her deep throat his PP and keeping her down there. As for you, Shizun, work my PP with that tight throat of yours, make me bust my nut in under 2 minutes and you get to be my CC little office pet, he growls out. Shizun, with renewed vigor at the prospect of getting her dream job of serving Naruto as well as to ingest his magnificent juice, used her own hands and pushed her own head down to the base of his pages, deep-throating him before forcing her head back up to the tip of his PP and repeating over and over again. Literally face F herself to get him to juice as drool dribbled out her mouth and down her body, creating a small pool of her drool on the floor beneath her. Finally, she thought, mentally leaping in joy, feeling his PP twitch inside her throat, opening her mouth as he pulled out and sprayed his load onto her body, soaking her in his seed. As soon as he started to juice, she used her fingers to open her mouth as wide as possible so she could catch as much of his juice into her mouth as she could. Naruto smiled at the sight of Shizun eating herself clean of his seed. When she finished, he pulled her up and mounted her, thrusting into her PP, dominantly making her scream as her PP practically gushed with each and every move. Ride it, B, he told her as he slapped her peach harshly, leaving a red hand print. Shizun began doing as she was commanded to and riding his mighty PP with fervently raising and lowering her hips, forcing his PP to crash into and bust through her, the entrance to her CRVX. With every downward move, her peach cheeks rippling and clapping every time they collided with Naruto's thighs. Yes, your PP fills me perfectly, Otudo. Shizun yells drunkenly on pleasure, only to freeze when Naruto firmly grabs her hips, holding her in place. What did you just call me? Naruto asks with a grin, having clearly heard what she said but wanting her to admit it. Ah, it was nothing, now please F me, Shizun says, desperately trying to move her hips down to have his PP continue reshaping her insides. Answer me or I take my PP out and F Tsunade. After all, she has been following the rules I set, Naruto said as he spanked her peach. Shizun's eyes widen in terror at the thought of Naruto refusing to F her anymore. I called you Otudo. I have seen you as my little brother for a while now, and one of my fantasies has been to be utterly dominated and effed by my little brother and become his obedient and naughty juice SLT of an older sister who lives to serve him, she answers, honestly hoping and praying it satisfies him so that he will resume F her. Naruto chuckled, which then turned to full-blown laughter. I really wish you had told me all that when we first met. I could have been wrecking you since we sat across the table in that bar. You could have been my B from day one. He laughed out, curious to see Shizen's reaction, and smiled, seeing it was one of lewd pleasure, as he could see the gears turning in her head thinking about his words vividly. Shizen thought about how much of a fool she was due to the pleasure she was receiving now, thinking she could have had this to herself back then made her feel like an idiot, but she was glad to have him now, glad to serve him. Oh well, let's make up for lost time now, sis, he told her as he grabbed her hips and forcefully bounced her up and down on his PP. Shizen felt like she could die from the sheer pleasure she felt, as she felt like she reached nirvana, being completely free and at the height of pleasure. I wonder if I should knock you up, he told her as he accentuated that with a hard move. He wanted to see how depraved her answer to the question would be. Shizen screamed from the thought of carrying Naruto's children, his heirs, and would very much enjoy the attempts to make sure she was knocked up. Let's see if this gets my dear salty sister PRGNNT. Naruto roared as he leaked inside of her PP. Shizen felt him flood her WMB to the point where it felt like it was about to burst. We'll keep at it till we know for sure, Naruto said, whispering into her ear. Shizen screamed as she climaxed so hard she soaked Naruto's lap and the coach in her juices to the point of passing out on top of Naruto. Ha was hoping to break in her peach, but guess she still needs to be trained a bit more. DMN Tsunade, I'm a little disappointed. You had all this time to teach her and yet couldn't teach her to take more than one load to her PP without passing out. I thought you were a better wear than that, he told her as he pulled the passed out Shizen off his PP. Then show me what a good wear is like, MSTR, Tsunade said, approaching him seductively before as he pulled her to him. I can't show you what a good wear is. You just have to be one. So tell me. Are you a good wear or a bad one? He whispered in her ear. I'm a good naughty wear, MSTR, Tsunade said as she kissed his neck as he massaged her tips. You better be, Naruto said, eating on one of her tips. DMN, I've wanted to SEK on these fun bags for years, Naruto said before going back to eating on said rack. They're yours to play with, Tsunade said as Naruto had full ownership of her rack and could do whatever he wanted to it. I know how sensitive your melons are. Naruto said as he could feel her NPL harden in his mouth immediately. Before he even started eating on them, just putting them in his mouth made hers as hard as diamonds. Tsunade could only breathe as he played with her melons. I hope he likes them, she thought, hoping he liked the melons she took much pride in. F-wares with big tips are the best, Naruto as he stopped eating her melons and decided to lick in between said holy globes. I own you and everything you are, he said, picking her up as they walked around her house, feeling Naruto's member pressing against her peach and pressed her against a large window. Just imagine, Tsunade, anyone can see you getting F, maybe even your neighbors will see how much of a wear you are, he said teasingly. Tsunade tried her best not to think about it and failed from the sheer thought of being seen as Naruto pressed her front against the glass. Let's give them a show where. He shouted as he slammed his length into her CNT in one quick motion. I'm aware, Tsunade thought as Naruto was doing things that many people dreamed and wished about. Her eyes were opened wide as she wanted to see the faces of whoever saw her being F'd by Naruto, as she was proud to be used by him. Scream for me, Tsunade. Shout how much of a wear you are for your neighbors to hear. Naruto told her as he pulled her pigtails to make her look out the window as he plowed her tight CNT. Tsunade saw someone outside her home and walked closer and watched her. Tsunade blushed as she realized who it was that was watching her and felt extremely exposed. Naruto felt Tsunade tighten even more and wondered what the cause was, and soon got his answer as a appealing redhead entered the room, having GG cup melons, thick and curvy body, and a large supple round peach. Granny Mito, Tsunade said as she as Naruto didn't stop thrusting into her. Hello leader of the Uzumakis, Mito said walking in. Tsunade, you failure, you service our clan head, and look at you pathetic. I apologize Naruto, she said with a smile. Please take my body and use it however you deem fit, she said to him. Is every female with Uzumaki BLD a SLT? Naruto asked her shamelessly into her granddaughter. We were feared for our vast number, only reason we never had more was because Uzumaki stamina beat Uzumaki stamina, Mito said to him. You need a true woman Uzumaki to please you Naruto. Perhaps we can train my granddaughter to be up to quality where it concerns the Uzumaki name, she with a smirk. You think you can keep up with me? Naruto asked her with a grin. Perhaps we were both Jinchuriki, Mito said kissing his neck. We both have incredibly strong bodies, she said with a smirk. You need a true Uzumaki woman to please you Naruto. Perhaps we can train my granddaughter to be up to quality where it concerns the Uzumaki name, she said slapping Tsunade's peach. I am amazed you are such a SLT, Naruto said to her with a small smile. My husband was very vanilla and not as equipped as you, Mito said to him with a lustful gaze. Unashamed of leering at the man taking her granddaughter to PND town. On your knees, Naruto said as the woman dropped to her knees as Naruto pulled out of Tsunade and thrust it into her mouth. Mito ate his PP covered in Tsunade's juices shamelessly as she very much wanted to please him. MMPH, the redhead woman using her mouth to please her new lord. Tsunade watched amazed at her grandmother. Acting like a true SLT. You are a trained SLT. You are a were made just for me. Naruto said as she was good. Guess you were right, I needed a real Uzumaki, but you'll learn you're not a match for me, he said as he saw her blush and wink at him. Tsunade started to injure herself, missing the feel of Naruto's rigid prick invading her snatch. Watching as her highly respected grandmother serviced her MSTR with more vigor and excitement than her and the other two women had. Get ready, Naruto said as he pulled out and leaked on top of Tsunade's peach. Lick it up, he said wanting her to lick it off her granddaughter. Mito did as told and even liked her granddaughter's holes, making her scream and CLMX onto her face. Please, as much as I'd love for the world to see me get wrecked by the perfect man, let's take this to my room, she said with a grin. Naruto nodded as they went to her room. When they arrived, Naruto looked over her room and it seemed average. Mito walked to the lamp flipping a SWCH over by the walls. Slowly the walls flipped over till all Naruto saw was red and black. The walls were now velvet red with the Uzumaki symbol on the ceiling. Behind the bed revealed a collection of SEC toys, ball gags, dildos, NLBDS, peach plugs, and vibrators along with other stuff like F machines, paddles, and riding crops. Hell, there was even a sex swing all put together and waiting to be hung from the ceiling. Naruto's whistled amazed by the older Uzumaki's collection. Quite a collection you've got Mito. Naruto said. Mito smiled strutting towards Naruto wrapping an arm around his neck while tracing around his chest. Well, I don't need to tell you we Uzumakis have strong SEC drives. Mito smirked. Do you think you can keep up? She asked. We're about to find out, aren't we? Naruto said grabbing Mito and throwing her onto the bed causing her to give an excited yelp. Naruto took a few fuzzy cuffs from her collection, cuffing her hands and feet to the edge of the bed. He then took one of her vibes and held it over her BRST rubbing circles around her NPL making it stand. He moved on to the second repeating the process before moving the VBRTR up and down over her sides causing Mito to in pleasure enjoying the teasing Naruto was giving her. Naruto roughly took hold of her melons twerking and pinching her NPL while massaging her melons with strong force. Mito tugged a bit with her restraints wanting to rub her legs together to quell the fire building in her pages. Naruto smiled seeing Mito's excitement but he wasn't about to let her have it yet. Naruto moved the vibe wand between Mito's legs running in a circle over her PP making it drip. Are you having fun? Naruto asked. You of all people should know it's not wise to tease an Uzumaki. Mito said with a challenging tone. Oh, is that right? Naruto said, pressing the wand down HRD on her PP causing Mito to bite her lip in pleasure. You know we're built for more than this, these toys are just to take the edge off, Mito said as nothing ever sated her SXL appetite, nothing ever. Naruto tossed the toy aside moving down to Mito's PP giving it a soft lick over her wet slit which served to do very little to get any real STMLTN out of Mito. Is that the best you can do? I guess you're as limp as Hashirama was. Mito teased. Even Tsunade, who was injuring herself watching the scene, could have felt that blow aimed at her grandfather. Afterlife. The first Hokage was huddled in the corner with rain clouds over his head as he held his head down in despair. With Naruto. Naruto's eyes narrowed and they soon shifted to pure red, eating over Mito's PP, sending a blazing surge run down her. Mito knew she was in for a world of F as she had her eye on Naruto since she arrived in this world, and she had to admit watching him excited her, as she often kept tabs on him, knowing how dangerous he was and how secularly powerful, as he often had orgies. She was able to keep her distance as she had very small reserves of chakra in her system. You know, two can play at this game. Mito said as her eyes shifted to red too and broke her own restraints, jumping on Naruto, pinning down his arms, liking the corner of his ear before biting down on his neck, liking down his abdomen, taking hold of his PP in a tight grip hard, and stroked him. You know, Kurama often complained about you, as you know he thought you were a beat, Naruto said to her as his eyes went from red to gold. I mastered his chakra SLT, you never got this far, he said to her with a grin, flipping them over. Did he now? Well, he was always one to be and complain, cause I never needed his strength, expect to give me a sec rise. Mito said, squeezing his PP tighter, making Naruto grit his teeth harder before Mito brought it over to her mouth, spitting on the top for a bit before her tongue swirled around the head of his PP in a way that would make even Anko jealous. Mito took into her mouth, only consuming the tip, dipping her tongue into the urethra, running it into the hole, making Naruto grit his teeth as he felt pleasure build, only for Mito to pull back, smiling as her hands moved up and down his PP at a slow, rough pace, Mito holding his PP like a vice. Mito moved down, taking his PP halfway and moving her head up and down, slowly pulling back every now and then, twirling her tongue over the length. Mito continued for 10 more minutes, feeling Naruto's PP begin throbbing, knowing his orgasm was coming soon. She then took the whole thing into her mouth, rapidly bobbing her head down till finally, like a volcano, Naruto's PP erupted in a blast of juice. Mito kept her mouth over his PP, not moving an inch from her junior Jinchuriki's PP. Gluck, 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 gluck. Mito gulped down every ounce of juice that was pouring down her throat as fast as it leaked while eating any that remained. Naruto panted heavily as the aftershock of his orgasm rocked his body like a hit from a Chidori. DMN, full-blooded Uzumaki women are crazy corny. Naruto thought, looking over at Mito eating the remnants of juice from her lips. She got off the bed and sauntered towards a still painting Tsunade, gripping her by the back of her head, smashing her granddaughter's lips against her own, feeding her drops of Naruto's juice. She pulled away lightly, pushing Tsunade to the ground before picking something up from under the bed. She kneeled down in front of Tsunade, placing a green and blue collar around her neck. SLT Princess. That's a good name for you, Tsutsu. You're nothing but a dirty little SLT. Get over here. Mito shouted, yanking Tsunade up, tossing her on top of Naruto, much to their shock. Mito held up her hand as chakra surged around her hand, coiling like a snake to form a WHP. She twirled it around elegantly, cracking it hard across the floor several times. Hold Satsu tight, Naruto spread her peach. Mito said in a deadly tone. Naruto looked over at Tsunade, who had a fearful look in her eyes, but he nodded, spreading Tsunade's peach cheeks, looking regretfully to her as they awaited Mito's neck move. Now Satsu, you've been a very bad girl. Hashirama always spoiled you rotten and you ended up picking up all his bad habits. You're even a terrible gambler like he was. So I'll do what I should have done decades ago. Mito shouted, cracking her WHP, striking Tsunade across her right peach cheek. 10 lashes, keep count or you'll get it worse. Mito roared, striking Tsunade between her ass cheeks right on her anus. Ah hark. Tsunade screamed, holding back tears from the surge of pain. Naruto grimaced, rubbing Tsunade's burning red peach cheeks. Get ready, Tsutsu. Mito said, rearing her WHP back as Tsunade braced herself. Whack. Oh one. Tsunade grunted out. Say thank you. Mito ordered. Thank you. Tsunade said, gasping as she cracked her WHP again. Thank you what? Mito asked. Thank you MSTRS Mito. Tsunade said. Whack. 2. Thank you Mstrs Mito. Tsunade screamed. Whack. Whack. 4. Thank you Mstrs Mito. Tsunade cried. Whack. Whack. 6. Thank you Mstrs Mito. Tsunade cried. Whack. Whack. 8. Thank you Mstrs Mito. Tsunade cried. Whack. Whack. T10 Thank you Mstrs Mito for punishing SLT Princess. Tsunade panted with a blush over her face as she fell on top of Naruto, her juices falling over his PP. Kurama. Kurama, little help. Naruto thought as after he got his chakra he was immediately able to call on his old friend. F this you're on your own. Kurama shouted, hiding behind his cage in fear. Mito walked up to Naruto, her eyes burning bright red as her hair waved. She got up behind her granddaughter cupping her large BRST before planting her PP over his PP slamming herself on Naruto's PP impaling her PP causing the bed to shake slightly. Mito began to bounce her up and down over Naruto's PP while mauling Tsunade's melons, pinching her tips while kissing her neck. She gently bit into Tsunade's neck drawing a small bit of BLD, she dipped her nails in it a bit writing a small BLD seal over Tsunade's neck then moved over to Naruto leaning down to write the symbol on his right bicep. Naruto and Tsunade gasped feeling a shock run down their bodies. Naruto's PP began expanding from within Mito's PP making her smirk. Aerojutsu Uzumaki Euphoria Seal, it was a special seal we Uzumaki created in case we were brought to extinction but we never used it. But now I have 2 fine specimens to test it on. Mito smirked as she began to increase the speed of thrusts which Naruto returned in tandem. Wow, my clan up with something like this, it feels like I could leak at any moment. Naruto thought feeling excitement building up in him as he sped up his thrusts feeling his PP spray out inside Mito who gave an excited cry of pleasure as she gushed. Despite that neither of them felt like they were done yet and continued to roughly F each other with poor Tsunade stuck in the middle, Naruto rose to a sitting position kissing Tsunade over her neck with Mito doing the same both massaging the Senju Arisa's melons as she rocked back and forth between the two lovers. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for more crossovers. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author pyrohelixdrago on fanfiction.net. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.